The regular meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment for May 2nd, 2019 will now come to order. Now, wait a minute, she can't call the roll, she's not here. Why don't we just stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? We'll get that out of the way. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Huh?
Any adjournment?
Yes, but I think we have,
Let's take the roll, make sure we have,
let's take the roll
we need to
first.
officially say we have a quorum.
Yeah, exactly. We're waiting for copies of a report to be sent.
One comment for roll call?
You want to, you can do it.
Yeah, just to get it rolling.
Mr. Hello? You want me to do it?
Mr. Hubbard. It's Mr. Wayno.
He wants the attorney to do it? Why don't you stay still and come over here? Frankie says he'll take the roll call. Okay.
I mean, I got a thing here, I just go by it, I don't know if I'm doing it right.
Can you hand it?
Just call the names, that's all.
Bennett.
Here.
Caruso.
Corso.
Giordano. Lopez.
Here.
Lozor.
Here.
Catalino.
Here.
Sheldon.
Here.
Milano.
Yeah.
Del Gercio.
Here.
Mr. Harrods. Here. Mr. Di Lorenzo. Good.
Good.
Mr. Riggs.
Good job, Frank.
Frank, you did a great job.
He's heard it so many times.
Well, the sunshine. Well, let's discuss the minutes. We have two sets of minutes. We have minutes from the special meeting on Thursday, April 17th, and we have from our regular meeting, April 4th. And according to the minutes, we approved the special meeting for May 21st.
Correct.
Okay? However, I believe Mr. Gassion is asking for an adjournment because I have a written request for an adjournment on the first case on the agenda, which is ZB 2019-02, 125 Academy Street.
Two?
02 it says. You going by what it says?
Well, I thought the first case on the agenda.
Yeah. Well, the applicant is seeking approval to construct a new parking garage, a new church facility to be known as a youth center and to renovate the existing parking area. It says here it's dated May 2nd, today. Dear Gina, which is our secretary, as you know, this office represents St. Mary and St. Mercutius Coptic Church with regard to an application for 125 Academy Street. Please adjourn this matter, which is on the agenda for this evening, to the next regularly scheduled meeting of the Belleville Board of Adjustment. Thank you for your anticipation, cooperation in this matter. Very truly yours, Robert A. Gassion. Mr. Gassion.
Yes, sir, I waived the time constraints.
Yes, and we're also eliminating the special meeting on April 17th, on
May 21st.
May
yes.
21st.
If I
Okay.
may, if I
Now-
may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
So, the special meeting for the church is now no longer?
No longer requesting a special meeting.
Right.
So, if I may,
Go ahead.
because me and you discussed it, and
Yes.
we disagree, and I'll be honest.
You could disagree all you want.
Okay. And I will.
Okay. I have no problem.
Because one of the concerns brought up by our leadership, okay, is the time frame in which our agenda is addressed. And you've heard that.
Oh, I know
So,
that.
and you've done a great job, and we've caught up.
Yes.
What I don't understand is, why would we want to go back? Because and you've sat on the prior case,
Right.
right, and I'll use these words, I kind of know in my mind how that case might unfold in a time ways.
Yes.
And I really believe, no disrespect to you, Mr. Gassion, I don't mean it in any way. I think that would be more suited, that case, in a special meeting, because now it will not impact on our normal agenda. That's my point.
I agree, but there is two problems. First problem, okay, let's do one problem at a time,
Yeah, I look at solutions.
okay? Gina, now that you're here, we did everything but the sunshine notices. This notice been given in accordance with the sunshine law.
Certification of meeting has been advertised according to the sunshine law.
Okay. And here, let some of those go that way. And here's the two problems. Number one, we don't ask for a special agenda. The applicant has to ask for a
I
special.
understand that.
Now, wait, let me finish.
Yeah.
He's asked this to be moved to the next regularly scheduled meeting for an initial start of the case, not necessarily to continue the whole case. And I want this notice nonsense out of the way once and for all at a regular meeting. And then after that, I don't care if he asks for 10 special meetings.
That's not the way you originally conveyed it.
That's the way I did it.
No,
You misunderstood that.
I know.
Okay, I only said one. Now, if he wants to have special meetings, I got no problem. However, I advise, and I advise the whole board, because some members of this board were upset that we came here to this special meeting, and we were here only a half hour and nothing got accomplished. Okay?
I agree.
Okay, and the thing is, until we get this notice business out of the way, nothing can be accomplished. So he's gonna send new notice. And that'll be for the meeting on, let's see, what's our next meeting, June 6th, okay? At the June 6th meeting, as long as there's no further problems with the notice, we could start the case that night, or he could ask it to be adjourned to a special meeting, whatever he wants to do. But I feel we should get the notice out of the way at a regular meeting, because his client's paying for a special meeting, and it's not fair to have his client paying for a meeting that only takes a half hour and it's done.
Just let me know when you're done.
That's it.
Can I go now?
Yeah, go ahead. Want to waste time, go ahead.
Excuse me?
Go ahead.
Oh, I thought that.
The clock is running.
So my point, Mr. Gassion, I'll speak to you. What the point was that I thought at last meeting, this was your request.
It was.
Okay, so it was your request.
The special meeting was my client's request at the last meeting.
Right, so I thought
Obviously,
we were gonna resolve the notice thing tonight, okay?
It was impossible to resolve the notice thing today because I'm reluctant to discuss too much because my adversary counsel, I told him I was just seeking adjournment. I was reluctant to discuss the notice thing today because the cautious thing to do is to discuss the res judicata today because the cautious thing is to renotice.
Right.
So we plan to renotice for the next regularly scheduled meeting of the board. That's what I told my opposing counsel, Mr. O'Connor.
We're renoticing for the next meeting. Is it your intention to put on the whole case in June 6th?
It's my intention to go forward with my application if I can get by the legal issues that evening. Never will I be able to put the whole case on with a competent adversary as I had. So I don't know how many witnesses I'll get, but I'll be prepared for a couple of witnesses that night.
Right, so would you say a good likelihood that if you're heard on June 6th, that will take a good portion of that meeting, if not all of it?
I do expect it would if we don't have any legal impediments to going forward. And then it's likely my client would then be willing to ask for a special meeting, but I can't commit that.
And my last question is, did we not settle on that date of May the 20th?
We had talked about that date.
I didn't ask you, I asked you.
I don't think we ever settled on that date. I think we talked about that date.
Well, I wanna-
If we settled on it, my mistake. I didn't think we
Nobody's
actually
mistake.
settled
I
on
just
it.
want to make sure everything's clear going forward to the whole board, not just one or two. Okay, that's fine.
If I could just add one little piece to this. Mr. Gassion, if we do start to hear testimony on June 6th for this case, can I make one request of you?
No, you can't.
I can't make it. I thought
No.
you said I could.
Not only if the other client was here.
The problem is the attorney's not.
All right, then I'll wait for him to come back. Thank you.
Now, well, let's get on to the first case on the agenda tonight, which is ZB 2019-01. So anybody in the audience that's here for 125 Academy Street, ZB 2019-02, the St. Mary's Church, that has been adjourned to our next regularly scheduled meeting on June 6th, 2019. There'll be new notices sent out, by the way, in the newspaper and in the mail, so you know. Okay, now, the first case on the agenda, like I said tonight, is ZB 2019-01. The applicant is seeking approval to construct a two-family dwelling on an undeveloped lot at 16 Quinton Street. George Gonzaga is the applicant. Mr. Gassion?
I've reviewed notice, publication, they appear to be in order.
Okay.
I'll just comment.
So that would be A1?
A1.
For evidence, okay.
Non-essential comment. I'm going to talk a little softer because I have a long night in front of me. If I don't speak loudly enough, please let me know.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, council's name is Robert Gassion, the firm is Gassion Blanco, 524 Union Avenue, Belleville. I represent the applicant in this matter, George Gonzalez. Mr. Gonzalez is the owner of 16 Quinton. He's seeking to construct a two-family on a currently undeveloped piece of property. Property is located in a BG commercial residential mixed-use zone.
Can you
This
hold
is
on
the-
1 second? Just 1 second. Gina, you gave us copies for 114, 116
Just in
Washington Ave.
case. There's two there. Look.
It's two. What do you have?
I just have one.
You have one, which one do you have?
114 and 6.
There's two there. I
All right,
photocopied both.
Quinton's must be over here.
There must be another.
Okay. Copies of the Quinton.
Okay, all right. I thought there was only one, because that's all I requested.
I don't have.
Just in case.
You got Quinton? Go ahead, I'm sorry.
So what I was saying is two-family use is not permitted, but this is part of the 50-unit per acre zoning. Therefore, because a two-family is not permitted, I need a D or use variance, and there is also bulk variance relief being sought because of the size of the property. The witnesses you'll hear from are George Gonzaga, the owner applicant, the architect, Peter Ricky, and the engineer and planner, Charles Stewart. Mr. Gonzaga will review what it is he's seeking approval to build at 16 Quinton. Mr. Ricky will describe the proposed two-family and review the changes that were made from the original plan. Mr. Stewart will discuss the site and review the planning reasons that, in his opinion, allow the board to approve this application. I'd like to call my first witness, Mr. Gonzaga.
Yes, well,
Why don't we also swear in, I'll be with you in 1 second, swear in our zoning officer and our board engineer planner, Frank and Tom, with regard to this application. You swear that the testimony you may give shall be the truth. Thank you. Would you raise your right hand, please, sir? With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Jorge Gonzaga, J-O-R-G-E, Gonzaga, G-O-N-Z-A-G-A.
Thank you.
Mr. Gonzaga, what is your business address?
28 Washington Avenue, Belleville, New Jersey.
And are you the owner of 16 Quinton in Belleville?
Yes, I am.
And for approximately how long have you owned that property?
Almost a year.
And what was there when you bought the property? Was there anything on the property?
No, it was an empty lot.
So it's been an empty lot as far as you know for some period of time?
Yes, for a long time.
And what is it you are seeking approval for from the board tonight?
I propose to put a two-family home with 2 bedrooms on each floor.
I have no further questions of this witness.
What was the last part? One on each floor? Two-bedroom?
Two-bedroom, correct.
Any other members of the board have questions of the witness based on testimony given? Any members of the public have questions of the witness based upon testimony given? None. You may call your next witness, Mr. Gassion.
Mr. Ricky.
Raise your right hand, please, sir. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I am.
State your name, spell your last name, please.
R-I-C-C-I, Peter Ritchie,
Mr. Ritchie, what is your occupation?
a licensed architect, state of New Jersey.
Mr. Chairman, Mr. Ritchie's been here on a number of occasions.
Any problems with Mr. Ritchie by any members of the board? Your license is still intact?
Most definitely.
Okay, then we can give testimony as an expert.
He'll just be testifying as the field of architecture, not as a planner.
Okay.
Mr. Ritchie, would you please describe the site?
The site presently is vacant, as you heard from the property owner. The site is, we'll call it long and narrow. Narrow.
Richie, I'm assuming we have that.
You do. These are the set of plans that are in your
Yeah.
possession.
No, I just want to get on the record.
I'll clarify that you were originally given another set. These are the revised, updated drawings.
All right. Let us know when and if you're going to put anything up here that we do not have, so we can start marking it.
There won't be.
Okay, very good.
Okay.
Would you generally describe the proposed new two-family?
Yes, so on this property, we're proposing a, what I would call a traditional two-family house. It will be two apartments, as you heard, each apartment will have 2 bedrooms. There is on the ground level, there is basically a garage, a 2-car deep garage, some utilities and utility areas, and a den behind it. On the first living floor, we'll call it the second floor, when you go up to the second floor, that's apartment number 1. That apartment number 1 also has, it's a little bit bigger than apartment number 2, because it has a den behind the garages. And then when you go up to the 3rd floor, it's apartment number 2. Once again, it has 2 bedrooms.
Mr. Ricky, would you please review the changes that were made by you subsequent to Mr. Harrich's letter, and so what there is now compared to what there was with the original plans?
Okay. The original plans had, when you came into really the 99% of the changes on the ground level. When you came in, there was room for a 1-car garage, and then there was a very large family room area downstairs, and a half a bath. There was a stair going upstairs to the 1st floor apartment, and there was a back door. It was our interpretation when we saw the letter that there was a concern about that lower level, because of the size of it, could possibly be another apartment. It was never meant to be. It was a half a bath there, and that was meant to be used by there. So we took that into consideration. What we decided is we're going to make the garage much deeper, where we can fit 2 cars inside, and I'll explain how that also benefits the apartments. We made the family room, which is it's accessible from the apartment on the 2nd floor, but it's also accessible from the garage. And most critical on this is there was a door in the back going to the sidewalk that went around. We took that door out of there, so there is really no way to have a separate entrance into this family room. What that did was, prior to this, there were 2 cars parked outside for the upper apartment, and there were 2 cars, one outside and one inside, for the mid-level apartment. So what it did was, it gives 3 cars for the lower apartment. It's a slightly larger one because it has the den. So, and if they only have 2 cars, they have the availability to park them both inside and have 3 cars for one apartment, 2 in the other.
So the den that you're calling it
Yes, sir.
is only accessible from the 2nd floor or the 1st
From,
floor? No, excuse me.
let's call the 1st floor the garage floor.
Right, the ground level.
ground level. So the second floor apartment
Will be,
is accessible from there. There's a stair going directly down from the living area. But you could also get into there from the garage, because
Right.
that's their garage.
right,
So they can pull in the garage in inclement weather, go in the den, go upstairs, and never have to go outside.
so if we're clear, it's ground level, first level, second level.
Yes, sir.
We're saying first level has access to that then.
Yes, it does.
What? Okay. That's it.
Right, there's no real way for the upper apartment to get into that den,
I'm fine, okay.
okay?
Just an additional question or two. You've already stated it, but the number of bedrooms on the, we'll call it the first living level and the second living level, I believe that Mr. Gonzaga said 2 bedrooms per each floor. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir. Each floor will have 2 bedrooms, and there are 2 full baths. Okay, 2 bedrooms and 2 full baths. The lower apartment gets the option of a half a bath down in their den.
When
And-
you say that then, you mean at a first level?
Correct. I'm sorry to be confused.
What is the property zoned?
I forgot the right term of it, but it's 50 units per acre residential, mixed use, sorry.
And did you have an opportunity to review Mr. Harris's letter and Mr. Di Lorenzo's letter?
Yes, I most definitely did.
And do you have any comments with regard to those 2 documents?
No, I think, I'm not testifying as a planner, but I think this fits into the neighborhood very well. You know, this isn't a lot that could ever be built to the use of what the really zone is. It's such a small lot. It's a smaller lot even for the 2-family home, but this fits on here much better and is consistent with, you know, in the neighborhood.
Now, in Mr. Di Lorenzo's letter, is there anything that he has requested that you cannot comply with?
Bear with me, get the letters.
Likewise, in Mr. Harris's letter.
Well, we have, of course, we have an undersized lot. We can't comply to that.
I mean, with regard to their recommendations.
No, I think we're meeting what they're asking for.
I have no further questions.
The only thing that was additional was a seepage pit, so you know how to put that in.
We have a civil engineer, if you don't mind. I
Fine.
won't talk about
I know
that.
you have a civil engineer.
Yes.
Mr. Malone. So, I don't know whose report I was reading. So the first floor, half a, ground level, half a bath.
Yes, sir.
There or not there?
Yes, that is there. It was always there, it still is there. We have not a sink and a toilet.
No bath.
No, no shower, no tub, no anything, sink and a
I
toilet.
mean, nothing. Once the plumbing's there, the plumbing's there.
Well, I'm not gonna argue with you, but it'll be underground, it's slab on grade. So it's not the easiest thing in the world to put in if you want to. It involves some work. It involves some work.
It's called a cement saw and a plumbing.
Okay.
Any other questions?
I have just a couple. As far as setbacks are concerned, on the left side of this property, you're going to be building essentially right up to the existing property line?
No, sir. Not on neither
On
side
the
of
driveway, the driveway is going to be abutting the adjoining
The
property.
driveway is going to be, yes, I apologize, I thought you were asking about building. The driveway comes close to the property line.
There's 4 feet on the right side.
And on the other side, there is 4 feet, that's correct.
And with the parking situation, you said the garage now has been expanded to accommodate 2 cars inside. So it looks like, according to the plan, you're going to have a lot of tandem parking here.
Yes.
2 inside, 1 outside, and then 2 on the side of the building. So I see 5 cars depicted.
That's correct.
With two cars in the front yard, right?
There's a possibility. We originally had, since they are apartments, we're going with the tandem parking because if it's a husband and a wife or an adult and a child who drives, whatever like that, they should park in tandem. I don't want to ever block out the first floor blocking the second floor or whatever. So these 2 spaces here are on the 3rd floor, the top floor. There was 2, now 3 are on the 2nd floor, those apartments. So You'd have to say, listen, I go out earlier in the morning than you, I have to park out front, you'd have to work it out that way. If they had 2 cars, they have the possibility of putting them both in the garage, if they have, or 1 car. If they had 3 cars, there would be 1 outside.
You essentially anticipated my next question, which was, I guess the spots inside the garage and the 1 spot outside would be for the first living floor, and the 2 spaces outside would be for the top floor, so that way you wouldn't have interference between this
Exactly.
first and second. living
Exactly.
units. All right, all right.
Yes, Mr. Valano?
Just to follow up, and Frank, in there,
Yes, well,
correct, 'cause I don't know the answer. You saw the drawing, correct? Is that driveway considered parking in the side yard, or is that legitimate?
well, it's a residential zone. This is a residential zone. It wouldn't be, but this is a mixed-use zone.
So it's allowed,
Yes.
parking in the side yard?
Parking like that.
But not, but it's looking for variance for 5 feet.
5 feet. It's 5 feet from the property line.
Yeah,
That's
that I
what we're
know,
looking for.
I'm just saying, I just thought parking in the
No,
side
it goes
yard
by
itself.
zoning, the district rule.
So not in this zone, you said?
No.
But no, in the one residential zone, it would
Right.
be prohibited?
It would be prohibited like that unless, yeah, right, unless you had a driveway, a garage in the back there.
Well, unless you had a garage, okay. But, and not to the residential, you said?
Right.
And
This
here in the
this is
mixed
commercial, mixed use, right?
It's prohibited, and the variance is for the
Five
5
feet.
feet.
Any other questions by members of our board? Mr.
Mr.
Lopez?
The den, you said the door in the back
Yes,
has been removed, so there's no access to it. Is there any doors on the side, to the left?
on the side of the building, no, there's not.
There's no doors. Now, the den in the garage, are they also accessible from the front stairs, from what I see on this drawing? I
This
see
here?
opening, yeah,
When-
the drawing on the left.
The lower floor plan.
Right, the lower floor plan.
Yes, sir.
It looks like you have the door on the right-hand side towards the front of the garage. So does that mean that is that coming from the stairs from
What-
outside,
when-
out front?
So when you enter the building, you go upstairs, approximately a half level, you know, between the ground level and such. Now you go up, you can go up further and enter the second floor apartment. You can go up even further and enter the 3rd floor apartment. Or when you come in, again, that half flight of steps, you can go down, and that's not going down. You can go down, oops, excuse me, and when you come down, you come into the garage. Now, what we did was, that's for the purpose, and to make it so they both have privacy or whatever it may be, you can come down, this door would be locked, and the only person who can get into that door would be the owner of the lower apartment, because the garages are his, and the den is that person's.
So,
But they can also come, the upper floor can come directly to their storage unit. Never go through that garage, and because both units get a storage unit.
so you can get through that unit, like you were saying, through the garage and through the side door. That's what it's called.
Well, there is no side doors, only front doors. Front door, that's the
Okay.
only door in the
The
place.
front door gains access to the garage, the first level, and second level, correct?
Yes, sir.
Anybody else have a question? I have a question. You mentioned it's an undersized lot. Can you be more specific?
Well, your ordinance calls for this lot to be 10,000 square feet. This is 3,800 square feet.
Okay. Now, well, that's because of the zone it's in.
Yes, sir.
Let's say this was a residential zone.
Yes.
What is the minimum requirement for a two-family house?
Sorry, I don't know that off the top of my head.
Well, I can tell you,
Okay.
it's 5,000 square.
Okay.
Now, for a one-family, the minimum requirement, and it's not in all zones, there's some zones in Belleville, is 4,000 square feet, 40 by 100.
Okay.
From what I understand, this lot is 38
We're
by
close.
100.
If that's the case, we're close.
Yes. But, well, you're close to one, yes, but you're not close to two. Okay. Now, the next
this
question,
is not
wait,
that
don't
zone.
talk, don't talk.
No, I can't talk. This is
Because
not
of the
that
simple
zone.
reason, he answered the question, and I'm satisfied with his answer. Now, Mr. Di Lorenzo, I do have a question to Mr. Di Lorenzo, especially since he's sworn in already. Is there a problem if the second apartment, which is really on the third floor, has no second mean of egress?
Jerry, he doesn't have construction documents, so we can't review it yet, so he comes in with a construction document, you guys approve it, and we do it, because if he needs sprinklers or not, or...
Well, I'm not talking about sprinklers, I'm just saying, does an apartment that's on the third level require a second way to get in and out? That's all I'm asking.
Right, and I just told you the answer, Jerry. We need to see construction documents. I need to see the ratings, I need to see it, how he's constructed and what type of construction.
So there's some instances where it's not required,
Right,
is what
you're
you're
right,
telling me.
right. He can not need it if he does certain things, but he doesn't have construction documents.
I understand.
And distance too, right, Frank?
Yep, but we're not here for that, yes.
No, I don't wanna, I know in some cases, it can't be more than 75 feet. So
You mean high?
No, distance from
But
an
you're talking about travel.
travel,
Oh, okay.
that's what he's talking about. So we wouldn't make that, that's him.
No, I understand
That's-
that, I'm just asking the question
No, I'm
because
just saying.
he eliminated the back exit. That's why I asked the question.
Well,
Otherwise, I wouldn't have asked the
well,
question.
That was only back at.
They eliminate the back exit, but they still got a front exit.
Yes, yes. But what I'm saying is technically, the third floor apartment only has one way to get in and out. That's the only way.
Yes, sir, that's correct.
Okay.
One last question. On the floor plan for the second living unit, there are two staircases depicted.
No, that's correct, I'm sorry. There are two staircases on the second floor, which is the unit that has the back going down to the den in there. The upper level, okay, we're calling it for simplicity, the upper level, third floor, there's only the one entrance exit coming in the stairs, there's no other ones. This is the lower unit, second floor, there's the stair coming down and going into the den below.
My apologies. The third floor appears first, and then the second floor, I was looking too quickly, I had the two interchanged. Never mind. Thank you for the clarification.
Okay. Any other questions by members of the board? Any questions by members of the public of the witness based upon testimony given only, not you giving testimony, questions about the testimony he gave only? Yes? No? Mr. Frantantoni, come on, step up to the front here, because we're on video. And give your name and address, please.
Vincent Frantantoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue in Belleville. We couldn't see the plans there, sir, but can you explain the three cars, the size of the garage for the first level apartment or second, whatever you call it?
You turn it to the right so he can see it. We've got the plans up here anyway.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to, I don't have all the dimensions on there and I don't have a scale, but I'm pretty close. So the interior portion of the garage from front to rear is approximately 40 feet deep. So in length, the cars would get 20 long by 20 long, which is more than, it's a full-size car and then some. So we'll have plenty in the length. Bear with me with the width, because I don't remember that off the top of my head, I apologize. So the width is approximately, I believe, 17 feet wide, 18 feet wide, for us, which is oversized for what we would need for anybody to put any, I don't know about you, but my car garage fits my car in there, but it's not that wide. It's an oversized width, and we made it. So, you know, people store things, like bicycles or whatever else in there, we left them room in the garage.
The other one, this plan here where the two cars are, is that inside the building?
These two cars here are inside the garage. These two, they're inside. This one here in front of it is outside, and these for the upper apartment are both outside.
Okay, those two are outside, so the top level Has
Get-
no
get-
indoor parking.
That's correct, no indoor parking.
That's the one there. And the other thing, what's the size of the, what do they call them, den or family room in back of the garage?
The den is approximately 22 feet inside by we have it here. We have it 18.6 because it's really the stairs by 17, 18 by 17. And but the bathroom's in there, so it's actually a little bit smaller than that.
All right, and I think it was asked, but I couldn't hear because nobody used the mics.
You know what?
What are the side yards?
The side yard is, from the building, we are 10 feet away on the left-hand side. On the right-hand side from the building, we are 4 feet away.
Thank you.
Mr. Frantantoni, stay in the front so that way you can hear us.
Hmm?
Stay in the front so that way you can hear us.
It's all in the second row, you got microphones there, nobody, and they worked. Mr. Graziano gave it to the planner at the planning board meeting, and she spoke into it, it was fine. And then she turns her back and not using the microphone. They have to be, I don't know, you guys went
Well,
to school.
I can't understand how you can't hear me. I got a big mouth.
I'm not talking about you, Joe, I can hear you if I'm home. The problem is, you gotta educate these people, that kind of microphone has to be about 2 inches in front of your mouth, not your ear or your chin.
The microphone, for the last time, does not work.
Willie, last week at the planning board, the planner couldn't speak, Mr. Graziano said right there, he took it off, he put it, and she was loud and clear. Then he put it, well, somebody got to turn it on, that was working. It was working at the
That might have to turn it
plan.
on.
Well, this is ridiculous, how many years this goes on? I mean, look at Bloomfield on the video, they're playing, you can hear everyone, the tapes of their meetings, this is a
I'm
disgrace.
answering the question. It's
Planning
not on.
board. Huh? Well, then turn it on or plug it in.
I don't do that.
Somebody's got to do it.
Okay, well, find somebody that does, but I don't. Ridiculous.
I can't take it. Any other questions of the witness based upon the testimony given? None. Okay, Mr. Cashio, you may call your next witness.
Mr. Stewart.
Raise your right hand, please. With regard to this matter, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, sir.
State your name and spell your last name, please.
Charles Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T.
Thank you.
Mr. Stewart, what is your business address?
Business address 204 Eagle Rock Avenue, Roseland, New Jersey.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a licensed professional engineer, licensed land surveyor, and licensed state of New Jersey.
And for
What
what
was the
school?
last thing? I didn't hear the last thing.
Licensed planner.
Planner, very good. How are you treating him, Mr. Gassion?
As a planner and an engineer.
Okay, just want to get it clear.
From what school did you graduate and what degree did you obtain?
1987 graduate, New Jersey Institute of Technology, where I received a Bachelor of Science degree in Civil Engineering.
Now, you've already said it, but you're a licensed engineer and a licensed planner, currently licensed in the state of New Jersey.
That's correct.
And briefly give the board the benefit of some of your experience in the field of engineering and planning.
Okay, I've been involved in engineering, surveying, and planning for over 30 years. I've been providing expert testimony before boards around the state, and I've been qualified as an expert in engineering, surveying, and planning for over 30 years.
Are you a member of any societies, professional groups connected with your work?
Professional Land Surveying Society.
Mr. Chairman, I submit that Mr. Stewart is qualified.
And his license is current.
It is.
Okay, we agreed that he is an expert.
So he's qualified both as an engineer and a planner.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Stewart, did you prepare the engineering site plan for the proposed two-family?
Yes, I did.
Would you review the location of the property?
Sure.
Do we have this, Mr. Stewart?
Yes, you do. This is my plan, plot plan, block 8503, lot 37, original date 10/17/18, revised through 1/11/19.
But not revised through April. Because our plans are revised as of April, I believe, 2nd.
You mean the architectural?
Architectural.
Yes, the architectural.
Yes. These were not revised. The footprint is the same, so I didn't change my plan. I'll go through what's going on in the back. I still show the rear patio, which is going to be removed. So I can explain that.
So he's done reviewing the location of the property.
Well, we're east of Washington Avenue, and we come off of Cleveland Street. We're on the dead-end section of Quinton Street. There's surrounding residential properties. We have the railroad to the rear. We have an existing retaining wall directly across the street that comes off of the use on Washington Avenue, and then there's also other residential uses on the other side of Quinton Street, and then further down, the very end of Quinton Street is a large industrial building.
And when you review the drainage as it now exists,
Yes, the property slopes from Quinton Street towards the east or towards the back. Everything kind of drains downward. It's an existing vacant property. There's two residential homes on either side, and the property slopes from Quinton Street down towards the railroad.
and based on your opinion and the letter of Mr. Hurwitz, what will you do with regard to a proposed drainage plan?
Yes, the recommendation was, being that everything's draining towards the rear of the property, is to put a seepage pit located in the back portion of the lot to collect the leader drains to pick up the drainage in that manner.
And would you discuss the proposal generally that's before the board tonight?
Yes, we're proposing a two-family home, 24 feet back off the right-of-way. That allows for a paved area in the front of the property. We have a proposed sidewalk and stairs to access the proposed two-story dwelling. The property does drop off quite a bit in the back here, so there is some grading involved with fitting the house in that property. We show a patio and a rear exit and stairs on the proposed home. That will be removed due to the fact that the architectural plans were changed, so that will be eliminated from this plan. There will not be a patio and a rear stairs coming out the back of the house.
There was some extensive conversation by the architect with regard to parking and ingress and egress. Is there anything you think you need to add to that conversation?
I think he pretty much covered it. We're going to have the one spot opposite the garage, and then the two cars inside, and then we have the room for two cars immediately adjacent to the house.
Would you describe, and you already started to, but would you describe in detail the area surrounding the site?
Yes, we have existing residential homes on each side of the property. We have, like I said, a large retaining wall that holds up the parking lot for the use on Washington Avenue. And then in the rear is the existing railroad tracks.
Is there any land available on either side of the property?
No.
And are there bulk violations connected with the site and structure?
Yes, there are. There are pre-existing non-conforming conditions with regard to zoning.
Would you review those, please?
Certainly. Minimum lot area in this zone, which is the BG zone, commercial/residential mixed-use zone, requires a minimum lot area of 10,000 square feet. This property is 3,803 square feet. Minimum lot width is 100 feet. This property is 38 feet wide. Minimum lot depth is 100 feet. This lot is 99.91 feet deep. And all the other requirements are met: minimum side yard, minimum rear yard, maximum impervious. You're allowed 100%, we're proposing 72%. Lot coverage, which is building coverage, you're allowed 100%, we're proposing 37.3%. Minimum open space, we're providing 28%. And then maximum stories, in this zone you're allowed 4, we're proposing 2. It's actually 3. It's 2 stories over parking. And then maximum height, you're allowed 55 feet. This proposal is 32 feet 9 inches. So we meet the remainder of the bulk standards, and there's no, the other ones are pre-existing non-conforming conditions.
Does the zone where this is located have mainly conforming structures, or is it a variety of structures in the area?
Well, on each side of this property, there are residential uses, but there are other commercial uses within this area.
And is it realistic to put a conforming structure with commercial on the first floor, residential above, at 50 units per acre on this piece of property?
I don't believe so, no. I think what we're proposing here fits in with the character of the neighborhood.
And would you review the positive criteria with regard to this application?
Certainly. We are seeking a use variance, a D variance, a D1 for this property because we don't meet the requirements of the BG zoning. So we have to satisfy the positive criteria and the negative criteria. I believe that this proposal advances the purpose of the municipal land use law. It's a better alternative than the strict compliance with the zoning ordinance. The setbacks exceed the minimum. We're allowed 0 front and side, and 100% impervious, so we're obviously not taking up the entire property. We have the creation of quality housing where current infrastructure exists, and I believe it provides improved aesthetics to this area. It's just a vacant, empty lot now with existing residential homes, so I believe that this will be an improvement to the neighborhood.
Is it realistic to put a commercial use on the first floor at this location?
I would say absolutely not.
And should this application be approved, is there any substantial detriment to the surrounding area?
No, there's not.
If you were to build something more in compliance, would that be more detrimental to the one-family home or the residential homes that are there?
Yes, it would, absolutely.
I missed
Have
that
you-
question. I missed that question.
I said if you were to build something in compliance with the zoning ordinance, with a commercial use on the first floor and multifamilies above, would that be more detrimental to the neighborhood?
Now I got the question.
So, and have you, Mr. Ricky testified too, but have you reviewed the township planners and engineers reports?
Yes, I have.
And any comments with regard to that? And in particular, are you able to comply with some recommendations made by Mr. DiLorenzo and comments made by Mr. Harris?
Yes, the one comment was that he would like to see a seepage pit to collect the storm drain, and we agree to install that.
And in Mr. DiLorenzo's letter, he talked about, in number 1 comment, township standards with regard to sidewalks, aprons, curbs being adhered to, and he talked about downspouts, and I think you testified to that, being directed to the street.
Yes, we certainly have no problem with that.
I have no further questions to this witness.
I have a question. You mentioned about all this. On the side of Quinton that we're talking about, is it not true that everything is residential on that side?
It is, yes.
So this would fit in with the residences that are there, am I correct?
Yes, sir.
And I agree with you that the BG zone does not serve on that side. I'm not going to argue with you about that. However, I do have a question. Wouldn't it be more in compliance to, let's say this was a residential zone. Let's say it was a residential 1-family or a residential 2-family, either way. The lot would still be undersized, wouldn't it?
Yes, it would.
For either 1 or 2.
Yes.
All right, anybody else have questions?
Yeah, I just want to, well, I don't remember off the top of my head. So what, on either side, are they one families, two families? What is on either side?
You know, I was trying to determine that. I was over there the other day. I believe they're one families, but I'm not positive of that.
Yeah, I think you'd be right.
I agree.
The only thing I'll add about the
So
density.
knowing that, you wouldn't think that on one family would be more appropriate.
Well, the only thing I would say is that if you look at the zoning, the BG, commercial slash
I know what the
residential.
zoning is.
Right.
I asked you, knowing that, what is on either side of this property, you think, what fits the size of the parcel that you have better and reduces the amount of variances possibly, I don't know for sure, wouldn't a one family be more suitable than a two family?
Well, I just don't think it's not appropriate for marketability,
Well, that's financial.
right? And there's really not,
I don't worry about finance.
Neither do I.
there's really not a demand for one family at this
No?
location, due to the fact that there's, I mean, there is
That's your
commercial,
professional opinion?
yes,
As a realtor or
no, as a planner. There is commercial immediately across the street. At the end of Quinton is a commercial use. There's the restaurant down the other side.
I'm familiar with the neighborhood, I'm saying,
If I might correct one thing, the home to the left is a two-family, my architect advised me.
okay.
And that BG, the density
Let's
calculation.
go down that road, I'll ask you a plan. How many ones in that neighborhood, how many twos?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. I was just told that the house immediately adjacent is a two. So we feel that this would be an appropriate
Is
use.
that a bigger lot?
Because of that house, because of that house?
Is that a bigger lot? I don't know.
It is. It's at least 50 feet.
At least 50, which would meet the requirements for two families, if it was a residential zone. I honestly believe that side of the street is zoned improperly, because everything on that side is residential.
Yeah.
You would agree with that?
Yes, I mean, everything on that side is residential. But if you look at the BG density calculation for 50 units per acre based on this size lot.
But that would require 10,000 square
Right,
feet.
10,000 square feet. Come on.
No, based on this size lot, the 3803.
No, listen to me. If you're gonna talk about 50 units an acre, 50 units an acre, you have to have a minimum of a 10,000 square foot lot. 100 by 100. We're very good with these zoning. We've been here a while.
See that? No, but my only point was that for this size lot, at 50 units per acre, it calculates out to 4.35 units.
But that's, guess what? Not really what we're here for. You want to put a residential. And if you want to put a residential, and if you wanted to do what you're talking about, the 50 units an acre, you couldn't do it in a million years because the lot is nowhere near the size minimum that's necessary. Number two, technically, you're only 2 feet off, if I'm reading all these plans, and I'm very good at reading plans. You're only 2 feet off in width from meeting the minimum requirement for a one-family house anywhere in town. I mean, there's parts of town that you need a 50 by 100, because we have an RA1 and we have an RA2, okay? And the RA2 requires, I believe, 50 by 100, maybe that's the one that's 40 by 100, and the RA1 is maybe 50 by 100, but one of them is 40 by 100. So you're only off by 2 feet. However, the minimum requirement for a two-family is 50 by 100, and you're off by 1,200 feet for the lot and 12 feet in width. Okay?
Thank you.
You want to add on to me? No?
You're fine man.
Thank you. I'm very happy to hear that. That's really a compliment.
It was meant that way.
Thank you. Any other questions by members of our board? Mr. Shelton, I can tell you want to say
I
something.
just did a quick bit of research, always available with a spreadsheet. The listed dimensions of the property next door at 18 Quinton.
On the left.
Yes, on the left, it's 47 by 100.3.
So that's very close to the 50 by 100. Yeah.
It is listed as a two-family, it is listed as a two-family.
What about the, well, there's none on the right, this is the last house on the right.
No, there's a residential house on
Oh,
either
this is in the
side.
middle.
It's in the middle.
What about the one on the right then?
Number 10 is 37 by 100, it's a one-family.
The one family, similar to this? Very similar, it's off by 1 foot. Oh, okay. All right. I love when everything.
Just want to add one thing. One of the things that concerns me here, part of the negative criteria is to prove that this proposal will not have any detrimental impact on the existing neighborhood, the existing residents. The west side of Quinton Street, they're all single-family homes. None of them have any driveways.
No, you're talking about on the right side.
On the west side,
The west,
on the west side, as you're facing.
the left side is the factory.
West.
On the west side,
West.
on the west side. The left side, as you're looking down Quinton Street, right, on the
Right,
west side, the left side.
right before you get to our property, then there's 3 single-family
There's
homes
single-family
on the
homes,
left-hand
right.
side.
And none of them have any driveways, so they're all completely dependent upon street parking. So with your project, almost out of necessity, because you're going to have this front yard parking, you're going to be taking a large part of, having a very large curb cut to accommodate that very large driveway, to accommodate 2 files of cars. Essentially, all of the frontage of the street is going to be consumed to accommodate your driveway. There's just a little piece for the walkway leading to the general entrance staircase. For most of the street curb cuts will be gone with this 2-family unit. Right.
Thank you.
Any other members of the board have a question? Any members of the public have a question of this witness based upon testimony given? Come on up, Mr. Franklin. I hope you were able to hear us better.
Yes, a little better. I'll follow up on what Mr. Sheldon said, the detriment to the area. Have you visited the area?
Yes, I have.
What time of day and what days?
I was there multiple days during the day, the business hours of the day.
Okay. Were you there at night?
I was not there at night, no.
Okay, no night. Now, you said there's a commercial property across the street. You have the address of that commercial property?
The address is Washington Avenue. I don't know the address, but right across the street is a retaining wall that holds up the parking lot for the business on Washington. It backs all the way up there.
Wait, so, can you have access to that business from Quinton Street?
No,
Not,
No.
how tall do you think that wall is?
that wall's got to be 8 feet high, 8, 10 feet high.
There's no access. So the actual business address of that commercial property is not Quinton Street, it's Washington Ave, is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Thank you.
Any other questions by members of the public based upon the testimony given only? None. Is there any other witnesses, Mr. Gassion?
No.
No other witnesses. Okay, does any member of the public wish to give testimony on this application? Now's the time. Yeah, let's get Mr. Van Antoni done first. Come on up.
So this time I guess.
Swear
With
in.
regard to this matter, do you swear your testimony and comments shall be the truth?
I do.
And again, state your name and spell your last name.
Vincent J. Frantantoni, 129 Mount Prospect Avenue, Belleville. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a 47-year history of that street. On the west side of the street, I've worked in every single house. The first job was a basement job in one of the houses on that street. I've done bathrooms, I've done kitchens. In just the last 4 months, I've worked on 3 of the houses, some minor repairs. I'm very familiar with that street. The other thing is, this property used to be a 5-room bungalow. I put a bid on it back in 73 or 74, I believe. Bigelow Motors beat me out.
There was a building on this property?
Yes, it was a 5-room bungalow. The woman inherited, she was from New York, I believe, that's where I mailed the
So the
bid.
building's been demolished, is what you're saying?
Yeah, when Bigelow, it needed a lot of work, but that's my specialty. All my homes have been wrecks, I buy foreclosure and I fix them up, that was my intent. But Bigelow Motors bought it and knocked it down to use for parking. Because at that time, the so-called commercial property was Bigelow Motors property, and there was a driveway down. The property went downhill. You didn't have this 20-foot wall that exists now. So in reality, there is no commercial use on Quinton Street there. That, like the engineer said, there's a 20-foot wall, no access to that property, and there's a fence above it. The only exit, that's a Washington Avenue business. And so that cuts off the access to that.
So you would say that's the back wall of the Washington Avenue business?
Right.
Okay.
And if any of you are taking a look at it, like the engineer agreed, that it's 20 feet or more. You can't get, it's no detriment to the street, because actually, when they built that wall, they limited the access to Quinton Street from that property. So that wall is not commercial property on Quinton Street. I want the record to show that. The other thing is, that lot, like I said, in the last 4 months, the 3 jobs I did there, cannot park. One time was 9 o'clock in the morning, another time was 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I had to park on Greenwich Street over there around the corner, and you gotta go back and forth to your truck if you need a screw or another tool and all that. It's a disaster. With Solar Domino, which was another thing approved by this board, I think wrongly years ago, they don't have sufficient parking. Their valet parking creates hazards. About a month and a half ago, when we heard this thing was coming up, my wife and I went out to dinner on Friday night. On the way home at 10 o'clock, I went in Quinton Street. I pulled in and all that. It then took us 10 to 12 minutes to get out of Quinton Street, because everything was jammed. The valets come, park their cars, leave them running while they're jockeying other cars around. We could not get out. Somebody at the end of the block, we're headlight, I'm trying to back out because there's no way to make a U-turn over there. It's a disaster. One of my customers here tonight, she lives on the west side of Quinton Street. They all have, I thought my house was bad, 15 stairs. They got 23 to 25 stairs to get up. They have no parking, no driveway, no garages.
Am I correct, Mr. Fran Antonio, that Quinton Street is a dead end?
Yes. It's quite a dead end.
So if you pull in, unless you could turn around in somebody's driveway, you have to back out?
Exactly, which is another thing I was going to bring up. Right down at I don't know, the next lot or the next lot, you can't control how many cars. You can have all the plans in you want. There's a guy across the street from my customer here, has about 10 vehicles, okay? 2 of them are these giant SUVs that are parked there all day long. We don't know what he does with them. He's got a pickup truck, he's got cars, they're backed up in the alley. When somebody's got to move, they leave the cars in the middle of the street. It's a total disaster. I feel sorry for those people down there. Like I said, I've known them for 47 years. Some I know for more than that, but that's when I went in business 47 years ago. And that's when I started working down there. It's the valet parking at Solar Domino. First of all, he is violating, that restaurant is violating your condition.
Mr. Fran Antonio,
Yes.
I hate to interrupt, but I believe me and you were both at a council meeting where this problem came up. And I understand a whole bunch of people got tickets on Quinton because of the valet.
But again, that was recently, in the last
Yes.
month or two. The police chief had to go down there because the residents were complaining they can't get to their houses, right? And one of my customers is handicapped. She has to get up at 23, she works, and then she's got to be home by 3 o'clock. That's the only chance of maybe getting a parking space, maybe. And on occasion, she's had to park way down, sometimes on Washington Avenue. It's overnight and all. It's absolutely horrendous down there. This don't belong down there. And I think like you stated in the questioning of the engineer, the lot size, you don't have like 1/3 of what's required for a lot size. The width doesn't comply. It's only like 1/3. of the width that's required and all that. But those poor people down there do not deserve to have anything more. And just to finish up there, the solar demeanor approved there, it was a garage. It used to be old McGreevy's Tavern, and he had a little shop and beer joint in the back of his house and all
I'm
that.
very familiar with
When Solar Domino bought it, he bought it and he got all these variances. Testified under oath that he had a parking contract with Richie's Auto Body across the street for
it. On
20
Washington
and
Ave,
some
I
odd
remember
cars.
the whole case.
If you check the record, the member Al Schmidt then said, well, look, I'll vote for this on the, because they couldn't produce the lease at that day. Can you bring it in tomorrow morning? Yeah. The next morning, Richie was my friend. I went over there. What? I don't know. Nobody's renting parking space for me. I don't have enough room for my cars over here. He never did it. On several occasions, I've gone to Mr. Di Lorenzo with complaints because in front of their place, that lot was supposed to be 5 parking spaces. He puts up this white tent, he's serving food in there. So, Mr. Di Lorenzo, on 2 occasions that I recall,
Mr. Chairman,
wanted to take
I
it down.
think there comes a point
We are
Well,
drifting.
where we are far
drifting
from
because
relevance.
you're
I
talking
think
about
I've
Soul
been
Dominion,
patient
and that's not
enough.
the issue here. The other thing about all this, and let's get this clear, the only parking that may be required for Sol Dominio would be for the bar area,
I'm not hearing that.
and we're not hearing that. That is the whole thing about the parking with that property. And that property has been brought up at a town meeting, the police chief got involved in it, and they've taken steps to correct the situation. So can we please get on to Quinton, please?
Yeah, well, and the reason I bring that out, because it's definitely relative to the situation. The negative criteria, there is negativity in
Let
this
me
application.
reword something, Mr. Fran Antoni, so we can bring an end to this. Everyone has a right to develop their property. What do you suggest?
Huh?
What do you suggest?
He does not qualify for even a 1-family, but I would allow him to build a 1-family,
Okay,
right?
thank you.
That's fine. You want to build a 1-family? There was one there, a small one. It was only 5 rooms. I was in
Mr.
that
Fran
house, you know?
Antoni, you have just
So that's
answered the
it.
question.
So that's it. But please, in respect to the people, 10, 12, 1-family homes that are there, please.
Thank
Do
you.
not create any more.
Thank you. We have a big
Adversity
agenda
for
tonight, so is there any other member who would, yes, member of the public? Come on up, give your name and address, and Mr. Riego will swear you in.
Wendy Harris, 7 Quinton Street.
Okay.
Could you raise your hand, please? With regard to this matter, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on Mr. Frantantoni's statement, the houses on the west side are all 1-family houses. All the houses I thought were 1-family. You said there's one that's a 2-family, but I'm not aware of that. I'm not familiar with all the legalese or the technical, but again, the parking is the biggest problem that we have. And a 2-family house would certainly, even if they have garages, what's to say that they're always going to put their cars in the garages? And with cars nowadays being much bigger than they are, will they fit in said garage? As following up on Mr. Frantantoni's statement, the problem is from the restaurant because, and the town is, well, they were following up on that. They, like 2 weeks, they gave tickets out, but now there's been nobody there, so we're back right to where we started
Well,
from.
then I suggest you call the police chief again.
Well, I mean, every day, like to the point they know my name when I call, I don't even have to. But it's just not enough room for a 2-family, I would say, if I lived on either side of it. As it's already been stated, it's a very narrow lot. They wouldn't have a backyard, you know.
So what you're saying is you would concur with Mr. Fran Antoni that you would accept the 1 but not a 2? Well, let's put it this way, I can't stop a guy from developing his property.
Yeah, well, I don't have, say, but I wouldn't.
Well, because she was saying 2 families too much.
Yeah, and I really think a small, very small 1-family, because, and nowadays, every family has at least 2 cars. We have 9 houses on that street, and every house except for 2 has 2 or more cars. So we just can't accommodate it.
Do they have driveways, man?
None, no driveways on the west at all.
On the west side?
Yes.
Driveways on the east side?
One, two, three houses have driveways
On the east side?
on the east side.
Okay.
And one of them that's the one that has the X amount of cars that's still parking on the street, so it's like they don't have a driveway at all.
I have a question for you. If that restaurant wasn't there, do you think you would be having these parking issues on that block?
No, not at all.
Do you think?
And in fact, when I go home tonight, I'm probably gonna have to sit for about an hour before I can get a parking space, because as I was leaving, coming to the meeting, the street was filled up. Before I can get out, somebody was jumped in the space. And there is a lot on the corner there, which I don't understand or know the logistics, but I can't see why the restaurant can't obtain that lot, flatten it out, and they could use that for parking. They'd have more than enough space. And that would eliminate them coming up, you know. My mother lives next door to me, she's 80-something years old. You know, if you go shopping, you can't come home, you know, you got bags to bring up. Like I said, we have no driveways or on this side or garages, so you have to wait, you know, you're waiting for somebody to get a space, first of all. You can't stop in the middle of the street because it's constant traffic. You know, I've gotten a ticket because for that reason I stopped to take the groceries into the house and they couldn't wait and they called the police. And while I was in the house, I was given a ticket. I didn't have a problem so much with receiving the ticket. The problem I had was, why couldn't the police ring the bell and say, can you move the car? But they gave me a ticket first, then rang the bell. So that was a little...
You're on the west side, Quinton?
Yes,
Okay.
yes I am.
Any other questions of the witness? Any questions of Mr. Fran Antoni's testimony? No. Okay. Mr. Gassion, do you wish to cross-examine the witness?
No, I don't.
Do you wish to sum up?
I certainly do.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
One of the reasons I didn't object to Mr. Frantantoni's testimony and let him go extensively because he was an excellent witness for my client. Talked about big old parking there. He talked about a 20-foot wall in front of this property. Who is going to build a one-family with a 20-foot wall in front of the property?
It's across the street.
Why?
He talked about parking being a disaster on Quinton. My client would have 5 spaces on site. Why would a person want to build a one-family, a brand-new one-family at this location? The one-families that exist on that street were built 80 to 100 years ago. There's nothing new on the street, and there's nothing new of a one-family nature that's going to go on that street, period. What do you expect to be done with this piece of property? Be left fallow? Deprive the man of an opportunity to do anything? Nobody's building a one-family. This is a dead-end street. You can't turn around. Mr. Frantantoni talked about giant SUVs parked there. Again, why would anybody build a one-family in that circumstances? He considered this street a total disaster. A total disaster. Again, my client, 5 spaces. And what's he taking? 1 parking space on the street. Makes no sense to turn this application down. Wendy Harris talked about the one families. Wonderful lady. Again, one families built 100 years ago. Nobody's building them today. The restaurant parking. Again, who's ever going to build a one family on the street with the restaurant parking there? 9 houses on the street. Only 3 of them have driveways. They all need parking on the street. My client, putting in 5 spaces on the property. I don't know how you could turn this application down. This is an isolated lot. Commercial across the street, Mr. Frantantoni says it's not because it doesn't front. Well, I'd rather have the store facing than a 20-foot wall facing my property. So I don't see that at all. The zoning. This zoning isn't one-family zoning. It's 50 units per acre with commercial on the first floor. We're not seeking a variance from what the chairman is saying, 1 or 2 family. That's not what we're seeking a variance from. We're seeking a variance from a requirement that you put commercial on the first floor and multifamilies above. This is a reasonable application. It's the only application, the only thing you can do with this property. There's no land available on either side. Yes, 38 feet wide. There's nothing else there. The density, although again, the chairman and Mr. Valano talked about should be a 1 family. The density is less than permitted, probably half what's permitted in this zone. You can't impose your own thoughts that it should be a 1 family zone. It's not. My client's not creating any bulk violations. It's clearly not a spot for commercial use, but that's what would be compliant. So the variance should be granted. And for a 1 family, nobody can build a 1 family. I've given you a dozen reasons why you can't. The restaurant down the street, parking all over. Nothing against the restaurant. Nothing in this area complies because the zone is completely changed. Every house in the area is non-conforming. Every house. What I'm suggesting on behalf of my client is very in character of what's there. It's not what is zoned for, because you can't do what it's zoned for. It's not going to do anybody any good. The curb cut, we're talking about taking 1 space. We're putting 5 spaces on our property. A tavern at the end of the street, a wall across the street. What are you going to do? Who do you think would build a new 1 family on this property? Who do you think would do that at this location with no parking, with a wall to stare at? It's an impossibility. The board's not being realistic if you think my client should build a 1 family house. I thank you for your time and attention.
You're welcome. Members of the board, discussion. I want to say one thing. If it's ridiculous to build a 1 family with a wall across the street, it's double ridiculous to build a 2.
Well, I just want to correct the record for one thing. I didn't say 1 family. What I said, I asked your expert why he wouldn't recommend a 1 family. That's what I said. So,
Yes.
whether he builds a 1, 2, but there's other problems besides. My other concerns were, I'm always hesitant to go down this road, because it's basically me accusing of somebody being dishonest, okay? And I don't mean it that way, but I still am not comfortable the way the house is set up to access ground level, so.
My client would be willing to change anything you think he's trying to put a cheater unit. He tried to change it whatever which way to make sure.
So,
You want the bathroom taken out, the bathroom will be taken out.
I'll give you my thoughts. I don't want to say my thoughts because I don't want you to think I want to put my will on anyone. My thinking is that, yeah, the bathroom and that stairwell going back down, what's the word? Encourages,
Facilitates.
whatever you want to call it, facilitates the misuse of that particular spot, you know, that usage. Now, what I will agree with, and I will agree with Mr. Gassion, is that I normally would not build a 2-family there, okay? But if we're being a realistic board, right? And the difference between a rateable for the township, okay, and nothing on that lot, okay? Because you have to look at building costs, whether we like it or not, and there's no rate of return. Will it be better off for that applicant to leave that lot vacant? In some cases, yes. So my position is, if the other things that I'm concerned about were met, I'd be more inclined to, like I said, the bathroom on the first, on the ground level makes no sense. The stairway going to the, from the front door, I think you used the term, from the front door down to the first level, to me, it's just another access for another unit. Sorry, that's just the way I see it. So, those, my concern is, if I were to go for two-family, those things would have to be addressed. The removal of the access to that first level and the removal of that bathroom in the, I mean, I don't understand why can't this be all storage and laundry for the tenants. I don't understand that. You need a den on a ground floor level? Makes no sense to me. But, you know, Mr. Gassion does make a valid point that, do you render the property, though not technically unbuildable, somebody might want to build a one family. Who am I to say? I'm just saying the likelihood, to his point, is not very likely. And so that's all I'm saying. I know, you know, when you look at the cost-benefit ratio for anybody who will come in and develop that, it won't happen in my mind. So what's best for everyone, the township included, to me is rateable. Not a three-bedroom rateable, a two-bedroom rateable. Not a house with a family room in the basement, which makes me skeptical, and with a bathroom in the basement, even though it's half, it makes me skeptical. But that's my point of view. I'm open to hear anybody else's thoughts.
Well, the character of the neighborhood, based on the testimony, there's only one two-family.
I know.
And that's on a 47 by 100-foot lot, which is only 3 feet shy.
I understand that.
Everything else is a 1. And everything else is, and there's all parking problems there. And to me, the least amount of units on that lot is what should be closed. The least amount. I'm telling the guy doesn't develop it. And even though we approved some tonight, we've approved, I don't know how many cases, that don't mean anything's gonna get done. All that means is,
I
we
can't-
gave an approval,
I can't
and
vote.
and the person could sell it without doing anything, or even put it up for sale, saying, I have this approval. There's no guarantee anything's gonna be built. Never.
But that's
So
not-
to say that's
not-
gonna be your rateable, it's gonna be a rateable for the town, there's no guarantee with that either. The question is, long-term, how much damage would it do to the neighbors in that neighborhood?
It's a great question. I'm not arguing that question.
Okay,
I'm
so
just saying-
I'm looking at it that way. I heard the woman give testimony.
And I hear you.
I know Mr. Fran and Tony give testimony, but he don't live near there, but she does. She lives right there. And there is a parking problem there, I can tell you that. But it's not really the neighbors that's causing it. It's like they said, it is Sol Dominio because
Well, that's
they're
not-
holding parking
But
spaces.
that's not
But
this
it also
application.
For
has
their
to be
people.
beneficial for him to build it.
Exactly. So what I'm saying is, I have no problem with him building what would be closest to what is allowed under any of our ordinances. Now, this whole nonsense about it's a mixed use and all this other stuff, that says it has to be 100 by 100-foot lot. This is nowhere near that, nowhere near that. Doesn't meet even the minimum requirements for a lower one family, not a higher one family, a lower one family. But the man has a right to develop his property.
That's-
But to say this isn't feasible and that isn't feasible, and nothing's ever feasible unless they get what they want. And that's how I feel.
Okay, I respect your opinion.
That's my opinion.
And I agree with it.
Now, you don't have to. Now, Mr. Shelby.
Let me just weigh in a little bit here. As you've already been pointed out, the character of this neighborhood is single-family home. 9 homes, 8 of them are single-family.
Yep.
Right, so that's the character of this neighborhood, single-family homes.
Can't argue.
I'm also, as you guys, everyone on this board knows, I'm a big proponent for uniformity and consistency in our decisions, and I have to think back to what we've done over the last year and a half. Mill Street, William Street,
Yeah.
Cortlandt Street, same sort of situation. undersized lot, the applicant wanted to build a two-family home. For example, the Mill Street, we heard the marketability argument that the applicant wanted to tear down the house and put up a two-family. We said no, so the applicant went ahead and renovated the home. After he did the renovations, he sold it for almost $400,000. Single-family home for almost $400,000. So this whole argument about financial viability or marketability, I know it doesn't have any bearing on our decisions, but it's also a moot point because, especially with this market, people are interested in buying single-family homes in Belleville. So, with all of these considerations, again, for the sake of uniformity in our decisions, I see this as just round 4 following Mill, William, and Quinton Street. And for this, I will support a one-family home on this site, but not a two-family. So that's my piece.
Very well said.
Thank you. Thank you.
Anybody else want to give their opinion?
I mean, I agree. It's a quality of life issue for these folks, and we are promoting apartments and that kind of development. So I also think we are establishing single-family homes, and I know that there's probably someone that would look for a property like that, like Mr. Fran Cantoni, to build a nice little single-family home to establish a life here in Belleville while all of these other things are occurring around them. That's all.
Anybody else? Mr. Caruso?
Talking about parking, it has nothing to do with this project. First of all, we have a problem in the whole town of Belleville with parking. Every street you can complain about parking. So I think the parking area should be eliminated because they have parking on the site. And that's it.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else wish to give an opinion? Okay, do I hear a motion?
There would be 5 affirmative votes are necessary to grant the relief, which is the use variance and the bulk variances that really pre-exist. Lot area, lot width, lot depth. And that's pretty much it.
Okay, Ms. Lozal will be voting on this case because Mr. Giordano isn't here. Do I get a motion by somebody?
Yeah, I'll make a motion.
I'll second the motion.
with
Wait, let's find out what the motion is here first.
Motion.
Got one? All right.
What's your motion for, John? Yes or no?
What's your motion? What's your motion?
To approve or deny?
So to approve it, yes.
To approve a
With
two-family?
conditions and everything else. Yeah. No.
Well, okay, to approve the two-family.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So the motion is to grant the relief for a two-family.
Changes on it, right?
As,
With the changes.
well, with Mr. Villano's?
I didn't make that motion.
No, okay.
I didn't second the motion. I want to hear his motion.
Yeah.
The board was talking earlier, John, about if it was approved, it would be better if there was no living area or den on the ground floor. Are you okay with that? No, and also no bathroom. And Willie, you were talking
Stop
about
saying Willie.
Mr. Villano.
Willie didn't second it, and Willie didn't make the motion. Willie just talks a lot.
Okay. Okay.
No argument there.
Right, please point it.
Something about access to the den from the first.
Ask the man who's making the motion.
Okay, John. Well, okay, that's the motion.
Yes.
To approve it with bathroom, den, gone, and there was an issue with access to the,
Well, access to the den through the front door, which would be eliminated if the den is eliminated.
right. Okay, that's the motion, and that would be 5 votes to carry the
Was
day.
it second?
I think Gabby seconded it.
No, I don't think she did.
No?
She changed her mind.
Okay, so there's a motion to approve.
And no second.
There was no second.
Okay. Well, yeah, she never got a chance to find out the motion.
Is that-
Okay, now, do we have a second or we don't have a second? Do I have a motion to deny?
I will make the motion to deny.
Motion made by Mr. Shelton to deny. Do I get a second there?
I'll second his motion.
Okay, Ms. Bennett will second his motion. That way I don't have to do it. Okay.
So a yes is to deny.
A yes is to deny.
So John,
You understand
your
that?
motion's off the table, we have a denial motion now.
Okay? Clerk, call the
You
roll.
can't have two motions at one time.
No.
Yes, because you never got a second. Nobody liked your motion.
Your motion only had, it didn't have a second. And there was, Michael made a motion to deny.
Of which she did second.
So that's what we're dealing with.
And once she found out what your motion was, she changed her mind.
Sorry,
Cruel. Like the nice. Okay, clerk, call the roll. Yes is a no, no is a yes. This gets complicated.
It's not confusing.
Bennett,
Yes.
Caruso,
No.
John's angry.
Lopez,
Yes.
Lozo,
Yes.
Sheldon,
Yes.
Valano,
No.
Del Garcia.
Yes.
5-2, it's denied.
5-2 denied. So we want to have a break? 5 minutes, 10 minutes, what do you want to do? 5?
It's late, 5 minutes.
5-minute recess. We'll reconvene at 22:08. 22:09. That's right. The regular meeting of the Belleville Zoning Board of Adjustment will now come back to order. Is Mr. Lopez in the house? And Mr. Pedalino? We lost him? Ah, here they come.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes. Manny's got no problem.
are we gonna vote on the minutes?
Oh, yes. I thought we did. Oh, we never did.
We never did.
We never did.
And the resolution.
Well, that will delay it.
But the minutes we should.
Minutes, yes. Let's get the minutes out of the way.
Okay.
Does anybody want to make any change to the minutes?
There's two sets there as well.
Yes, hold on, let me look here. Because we already testified that there is some change, and that is that we're not going to have a special meeting this month. So, let me find it. Gina, here, have this. Okay. Does anybody have any problems with this? Okay, so Quinton Street and Heckel Street was adjourned last month, so I'm saying, already adjourned. Okay. Anything else? All right. Motion to, let's do the minutes, each one first. Motion to accept the minutes of our regular meeting on April 4, 2019. So moved. Do I get a second?
Who approved that first? I didn't hear.
I did.
Mr. Valano made a motion to approve, seconded by Mr. Shelton. Clerk, call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Lozo,
Yes.
Pedalino,
Yes.
Sheldon,
Yes.
Valano,
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Special meeting minutes of Thursday, April 17th, 2019, which wasn't for long.
Motion.
Motion made by Mr. Valano. Do I get a second? Seconded by Ms. Lozow. Clerk, call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
Lozo,
Yes.
Pedalino,
Yes.
Sheldon,
Yes.
Valano,
Yes.
Del Garcia. Del Garcia.
Yes, yes, yes. Okay, next case on the agenda, what we'll do is, number 3 on the agenda, ZB 2019-06, 57 Ralph Street, since that's supposed to be a very quick case, or Mr. Gassion promises that to me. Mr.
Based
Gassion,
on questions from the board members.
number 3 on the agenda.
Yeah.
No, you have a wrong agenda. I have a new agenda, because I told her she had to put this on. Okay, Mr. Gassion.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, council's name is Robert Cassione, the firm is Cassione Polanco, 524 Union Avenue in Belleville. Represent the applicant in this matter, Acumen Realty LLC, the owners of property at 57 Ralph Street. My clients are seeking to construct a new two-family at the subject property, which is now vacant. It is a two-family zone and the use is permitted. There are two bulk variances. One, in that they do not have 5,000 square feet of lot area. The lot area is 4,687 square feet. The lot depth is not 100, in that it is 99.73.
Is this an irregular lot?
Yes, narrow, a little narrow on the back, gotta be.
No, I'm just
Get
saying,
that square footage.
I'm trying to figure out how the square footage
Little
is so
pie
low
shape.
when it's only like 1 foot off in the width, that's why I'm asking.
It tapers to the back, it's 44 feet across the rear, if you look at.
Oh,
it's
okay.
24 feet in the back.
All right, that explains it, that's all I wanted to clarify. Go
My
ahead.
client observed the tax bill prior to buying the property and it reflected 50 by 100. The witnesses you'll hear from are Raj Jetley of Acumen and Anthony Marucci, the engineer and planner. I'd like to call Mr. Jetley.
Just let me indicate for the record, I've reviewed notice application, it appears to be in order, we'll mark it A1. Why don't we swear in? Well, I swore them into the first case. Gentlemen, Mr. Harris, Mr. Di Lorenzo, consider yourself still sworn and under oath for this and any other matters that we might get to know. Okay. Would you raise your right hand? With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
Okay, and could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
It again?
Could you state your name and spell your last name?
Raj Jetley, R-A-J-J-E-T-L-E-Y.
Mr. Jetley, what is your business address?
19 Amelia Street, North Farming.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a builder.
And are you the managing member of Acumen LLC?
I manage the company.
And is Acumen the owner of 57 Ralph Street?
Yes.
And for how long have you owned that?
It's about a year now.
When you bought the property, did you think it was a conforming lot?
Yes, I went to the tax office and they told me and gave me the paper, it is 50 by 100.
I show you a copy of the tax bill you're referring to.
Yes,
Does that reflect 50 by 100?
yes, it is based upon this that I bought this property.
A2?
A2?
Is that correct? You got something as A1? You got that?
A1 is the
Yeah.
notices.
Okay.
A2, and that's the tax?
Tax bill 2017, 2018, I believe, tax bill.
And that reflects
50 by 100 piece of property. And, Mr. Jetley, what is it you're looking to build on this property?
Two-family home?
And do you plan to retain ownership if you get that approval?
Yes.
Do you own any other two families in Belleville?
For the last 4 years, I have built 8 new two-families on the vacant properties
And are 6 of
In
them,
Belleville?
in Belleville.
6 of them completed?
6 are completed, 7th is 99% complete, and 8th is about 60% complete.
And were all of those properties either approved prior to your purchase or permitted uses?
I bought all approved properties.
No further questions.
Okay, questions by members of the board?
Can I see that?
Yes, going your way. It says 50 by 100. Any other questions for the witness? We have the proof over here. Anybody else? Any member of the public have a question of the witness based upon testimony here? None. All right, Mr. Gassion, you can call your next witness.
Mr. Marucci.
Swear in, Mr. Marucci.
Yes. So with regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
State your name and spell your last name, please.
Anthony Marucci, M-A-R-U-C-C-I. My business address, 116 Whippany Road, Whippany, New Jersey.
And in which type of testimony is Mr. Marucci?
Mr. Marucci is a licensed engineer and a licensed planner, and I'm seeking to have him qualified as both,
Okay.
And he's been here before.
Oh, plenty of time.
numerous times.
As long as he didn't lose his license, he can testify.
My licenses are current, and I thank you.
You're
Chair,
welcome,
and members
sir.
of the board.
You're very recognizable.
Did you prepare the engineering site plan for the proposed two-family?
Yes,
Would you review the location of the property?
the property is known as 57 Rouse Street, Block 9501, Lot 19. It's one lot in on Rouse Street, one lot in from Home Street. When Mr. Jetley, I do quite a bit of work for Mr. Jetley, and when he first told me about the property, he said it was 50 by 100. The zone is RB, which allows two families on 5,000 square foot lots. What happened was when I went to survey the property, I'm going to go to sheet 2. You'll notice in the existing condition, the property does have a 50-foot lot width, and on the left side, on the south side, it's a right angle, but the depth is 99.73, which is 3 1/8 inches less. That's how de minimis that variance is, existing condition. But on the right-hand side, the angle is not square, it goes in so that the back of the property, the rear of the property, only has a width of 44 feet. So the lot area, as Mr. Gassion said, is 4,687 square feet. We're shy 313 square feet, or approximately 6% of the lot area. Those are the only two variances that we're requesting, which are existing conditions.
And what is it, you've already said what the zoning is, just repeat what the zoning is at the site.
RB,
And,
two family.
okay. And any problems with the topography of this property?
No, it's a flat lot, gently sloping towards Ralph Street.
Would you describe the proposed site?
The proposed site, as I was saying, is that we are not asking for any proposed variances. The house is designed to meet all of the bulk and setback variances, height, and building coverage. So we're squeezing the house basically to meet that coverage. So we're not asking for any other variances except for the existing. It's an isolated lot, and as Mr. Harris put in his report, we cannot buy any additional land. The lots on Home Street are also less than 5,000 square feet. They also have this similar type house with 3 stories, with the garages on the ground floor, an apartment on the second floor, and an apartment on the third floor. The only difference is that our house is narrow and deep, and on Home Street, the houses are wide and shallow, because the lots are wide and shallow.
So it's short by a very, very small amount.
In my opinion, de minimis. On the left side, the house next door to us is almost on the property line, and so there's no way of getting land on that side either.
And this is a C application, not a D, correct?
This is definitely a C application, and
It would only require a majority of the board.
quite frankly, I think I can use both the C1 and the C2 criteria. The C1, because of the size and shape of the lot, is the hardship. There is no self-created hardship here. And under the C2 criteria, I believe that the benefits outweigh the detriments, because we're taking an empty lot that I surveyed the property, it was just overgrown and dirt and really an eyesore, to be honest with you. This is a cleanup. Aesthetically, you're going to have a two-family house that conforms with the rest of the character of the neighborhood. So, in my opinion, the benefits outweigh the detriments. And with respect to the any substantial detriment to the public good, I see no detriment to the public good. As a matter of fact, I think this will benefit the public by having the house here. And with respect to impairment of the zone plan or zoning ordinance, again, I see no impairment to the zone plan or zoning ordinance because a house belongs on this property.
That's it, Mr. Gassion?
That's it, a brief summation.
I hope it's very good.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my client has built 8 two-families in this town, all of which were approved prior to his acquiring the property or were completely conforming. He went to buy this property and saw the tax bill showing 50 by 100 and assumed it was conforming. However, it turned out to be non-conforming in that it has a couple of inches short of the 100-foot depth and 300 plus square feet because there is a pie-shaped factor to the property. As Mr. Marucci has pointed out, he can proceed either C1 with the hardship of the property, and obviously this has a hardship because of the unique shape of the property, or C2 and the benefits outweigh the detriment. It's a two-family home in a two-family zone, and the land would be properly used, and Mr. Jetley has built other nice homes in town and plans to continue doing such and owning them. I thank the board for their time and attention.
Hold on, I don't want to close the case. Mr. Harretts,
Yes?
you put in your report that you're requesting a seepage pit?
Yes.
If I can respond to,
Yes.
every time we prepare a plan before a building permit is issued, I prepare a grading plan, and that would also require the seepage pit for drainage.
Yeah, we always do.
And I
So that's
comply,
what
and I agree with that.
So as part of the agreement, you will comply with all the recommendations by Mr. Harretts and Mr. Di Lorenzo, correct?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, does any member of the public wish to testify on this case? I'm sorry
I
that
have a
that...
question before we get to public testimony.
Go ahead.
I know the lot is currently empty. Do you know what was on this lot previously?
In all honesty, I surveyed this a year ago, but obviously it was vacant. If there was a house here at one time, I don't know.
The reason why I ask, I do visits to all of our application sites, and I noticed that there's already a nice brand-new curb cut and sidewalk in front of this house. It looks like this was installed within the last few years, but there's a beautiful new driveway there. Actually, according to your plans, unfortunately, it's on the wrong side. It's on the left side where your proposed garage is on the right side.
I understand. You're right. When I surveyed the property, that new sidewalk and curb was there. We're going to have to...
Move it about. It's just
Move it about.
unfortunate that they didn't have the
It is
foresight to
unfortunate.
put it the right side.
You're absolutely right, but we will have to modify.
Well, let me explain something to you. I want to cut to the chase with this. If new sidewalks and new curbs were put by the town, and there was an existing curb cut there already from a previous building, they're required to put the same curb cut. So that might be why it's there. Okay? Thank you. So, that's it. Do I get a
Mr.
motion?
Gassion,
Mr. Gassion, do you have anything else to
are you
say?
done?
Done.
Done. Public said they don't want to come. I asked.
You're supposed to ask before, Mr. Gassion.
Well, that's all right. I asked after. Why, you want to talk? You want to come up here? Good. That's the end of that. Now, anybody else have any questions of the witnesses? No? Good. You have a question of somebody?
No,
Okay. You want to make a motion?
it's not discussion, motion to approve.
Motion to approve. Seconded by Mr. Lozow, Ms. Lozow. By Mr. Milano, seconded by Ms. Lozow, with the conditions that all the reports of Mr. Harretts and Mr. Di Lorenzo are complied with. Correct? Yes. Correct. Clerk, call the roll.
Bennett? Yes. Caruso?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Loza?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Milano?
Yes.
Del Garcia?
Yes. Now, Mr. Gassion, I would like to try and get a third case out of the way
Mr. Loza?
because we are going to be hearing your church case next month at the regular meeting. I'll let you pick. I'll be nice.
I can't do that.
Since they're all your cases.
Somebody will hang me.
Since they're all your cases.
You gave him the wrong choice. Put something in that
Now,
hat.
well, that way I'll put all the blame on him. But if he wants me to pick, I will pick.
Yeah, I prefer that you pick, sir.
All right, then we're going to do Mr. Heckel Street.
Okay.
Because Heckel Street was on the agenda last month, and the other one was not on the agenda last month. Okay?
Mr. Chairman,
Yeah.
should my other case remain, or do you plan to end after this
Well, it
case?
depends on how quick you
How
get
quickly
this
we
one
go.
out of the way. Mr. Valano, would you mind if we try and get everything out of the way tonight? Because of next month?
My answer is, it depends
I'm
on.
not pushing, let's just see what time
All
it
right,
is.
let's see. We're gonna do Heckel first, correct?
Correct.
All right, let's get
That's
Heckel
what
out
you
of the way.
decide.
And then we'll see how much time, or what time it is. How's that sound? Then we'll ask the members what they want to do.
Before noon, no.
I will not impose anything on the members. Whatever they decide is okay with me. Okay?
Tom, your most recent report is February 19th. February 19th is your most current report on this?
Yes.
Okay, great. I've reviewed notice, publication, and order, we'll mark it A1. Mr. Harris and Mr. Lorenzo are still on the road.
Proceed.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, council's name is Robert Gassion, the firm is Gassion Pomaco, 524 Union Avenue in Belleville. I represent the applicant in this matter, 32-34 Heckel LLC. My client is seeking to renovate the first floor of an existing one-story building and add a second story to the building. He proposes to devote the entire building to office use. The property is in an RC multifamily zone, and the use is not permitted. Therefore, the applicant needs both a use and bulk variance relief. The area of the first floor is not being expanded, and most of the bulk variances are pre-existing. The witnesses you'll hear from are Jason Tielve of 32-34 Heckel Street, Patrick Lesbriel, the architect, and George Williams, who's got an easy name, the planner. Jason will discuss what it is he is seeking to do with the building and describe his business operations. The architect will describe the existing site and structure. He will also review the proposed addition and detail the bulk variances being sought. The final witness will be the planner, George W. Williams. He will give a planning overview, review the relief sought, and discuss both the positive and negative criteria. Call my first witness, Jason Tielve.
Could you raise your right hand, please, sir? With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes.
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Jason Tielve, T-I-E-L-V-E,
Thank you.
Jason, what's your business address?
146 Ralph Street, Belleville.
And what is your occupation?
We are fire sprinkler contractors.
And for how long have you been located in Belleville?
Approximately going on 4 years.
And briefly describe what your business is.
We are a fire sprinkler contractor based out of Belleville. In the building that we currently have, we store some material and we have our offices there. If this is granted, we're going to end up moving our office out of Belleville and leave the material there and rent the garage.
You're not going to move your offices out of Belleville, you're going to move your offices to a different location in
To a different
Belleville, am I
location in
correct?
Belleville, Yes, 3234.
And what will the number of employees be that you move to the Heckel address?
It's a total of 7 employees, most of which are in the field about 95% of the time.
And you say most of which, how many will actually be located and working at the proposed office should this application be approved?
4.
And the other 3 or whatever it may be, when do they arrive at the office and when do they leave the office?
Our hours are typically 8 o'clock in the morning. They come in, usually get some reports, leave for the day, check on the men. So they're only there for about half an hour in the morning at best.
Do they return at night?
It varies, typically not.
And your shop and your Any operation you do with any of your equipment, will that remain at the 146 Ralph Street address?
That is correct.
And again, the hours of operation, repeat those if you would, at the new location, the Heckel Street address.
Approximately 8:30 to 4.
I have no further questions.
It's got to be 5 days a week?
Yes, 5 days a week.
8:30 to 4.
More Saturday and Sundays?
Saturdays and Sundays, no, not usually. If so, it's a very much a rarity. And, yeah, inclement weather, everybody stays home, doesn't work from home.
Any questions by members of the board? Other questions? Any questions by members of the
Mr.
public?
Milano had a question.
Mr. Milano, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Now, Heckel Street is gonna be your office and garage, or
Strictly office.
first and second floor, or
Yes, sir.
strictly offices,
Yes.
no mechanical work?
No, sir.
Mechanical work is gonna be at the Ralph Street?
We really don't, we only store material around. All the mechanical work is actually in the field on
On the
site.
job, right?
Yes, sir.
So, what about trucks and things like that?
The guys take them home,
Right?
and they go straight to the sites.
That's it? Okay, thanks.
Yes, sir.
I have a question.
Yes,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Lopez.
You said 7 employees in this location.
Yes.
They show up in the morning, for the most part they leave.
Yes.
They may not come back. in the evening.
Not all of them, 4 staff.
Or stay.
Forced that, right?
Besides the 4 that are staying, the other ones that arrive, are they parking vehicles there, or are they leaving with the vehicles at the street?
No, they leave with the vehicles. So they're project managers. They typically come in, get a field set of plans, inspection reports, whatever the case is that they need for the day, and then they leave right from there. We check on them throughout the day.
So they're there during short period of time during the morning with their vehicles, and then they're leaving?
Correct. Typically approximately about a half an hour, at most 45 minutes.
Any other questions by members of the board? Any questions by members of the public of this witness based upon testimony given? You may call it. Your next witness.
Patrick?
Raise your right hand, please. With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
State your name, spell your last name, please.
Sure, Patrick Lesbarel, Lesberel. Sure.
Patrick, what's your business address?
Our business address is 59 Lincoln Park, Newark, New Jersey, 07102.
And what is your occupation?
I'm a practicing architect.
And for how long have you been practicing in the field of architecture?
Over a year and a half.
And from what school did you graduate?
NJIT,
And what degree did you obtain?
Bachelor's in Architecture.
Are you a licensed architect in the state of New Jersey?
Yes, this in 5 other states.
How long?
I've been in this state and 5 other states.
And give the board the benefit of some of your experience in the field of architecture. And if you could, maybe talk about a couple of office buildings that you have worked on.
Sure. I've been working in the practice since I was 18 years old. While attending NJIT, I was already working in practice. I've done a 12,000 square foot medical building in Hazard, New Jersey. I've done a 12,000 square foot commercial pad restaurant in Brick, New Jersey. I'm currently doing an 18-story high-rise in downtown Newark. So our practice is growing pretty quickly.
Are you a member of any societies, professional groups connected with your work?
I have an American Institute of Architects.
Have you testified previously before zoning boards and planning boards?
I have.
We accept that as an expert in each and every occasion.
Yes, I have.
Can you
Mr.
give
Chairman, I
some reports
submit-
that you testified before?
The city of Newark, Township of Brick,
Okay.
all over the state.
He's acceptable.
Would you describe the site?
Sure. So, I would like to now refer to drawing S1. Do you have a mic? Give me a mic.
No, you just have to
Just
speak up.
speak
a little.
up.
Okay, so what we have existing is existing one-story masonry building. It's currently basically a hollow shell, open floor plan, and we have an existing rear area on the eastern portion of the site, which is a dilapidated parking lot at best. It's pretty beat up, and it hasn't been maintained in a very long time. The goal of our client, as was already stated, is to add a second story to the structure, and to make it an office on the first floor and the second floor. Now I'd like to refer to the floor plan. Actually, let me stop here, sorry. SO2, I'd like to now refer to, drawing S2, to talk about the site plan. We're proposing 4 parking spaces on the easterly portion of the property and to redo that dilapidated parking lot. So that'll be redone. We're also
When you
proposing
say redo, you mean pave and stripe?
repave, restripe, bring it back up to where it needs to be. We're proposing a trash enclosure to the rear, and we're proposing an egress stair that goes up to the second floor. We're also proposing a privacy screen fence, which abuts the eastern portion of the property.
Will there be any protection for the garbage area?
Yeah, the garbage area will be enclosed in the same similar fence. Now referring to drawing 8-1 of our drawing set. So just walking you guys through the floor plan, the corner of the property, we have 175 square foot lobby space that opens to a reception area. On the first floor, we maintain 2 offices, 1 training room. The training room is for studying for like NFPA, which is the fire sprinkler exams. So you have a control system there and they use the computers to study. You then have a bathroom that's ADA compliant on the first floor. We have a copy machine, a supply room, a file room, and a break room. Now, if we go up the spiral staircase to the second floor, we have the 2 principals of the company's offices, a water closet for them and a shower. We have the major print room, which again, these guys do a lot of printing to print all the blueprints for all these projects. So we have a big print room, another file room, and then a conference room for the staff when they have to have team meetings to review any of the projects. Again, you can see on this plan, we have the rear exits there, and that basically walks you through the actual floor plan of the project. Now referring to drawing A-2, these are the architectural elevations. So as you can see, we have the existing brick facade on the first floor, and then we're proposing an EFIS modern finish on the second floor. I'd like to submit this as an exhibit. We don't have that exhibit.
Let's mark that A2.
A2.
A1 was the notice.
Yes.
This is A3, got it, thank you. That's correct.
So now referring to the elevations again, we have the existing brick facade, the existing windows to be replaced, and then we have the second floor, in which we're proposing a modern breakdown of that facade. So we've broken it down into compartmentalized scales, and that'll all be stucco finish of different colors as we propose in the preliminary rendering. Again, that's preliminary, we're still looking at the colors in the final, but that's a preliminary rendition of what it should look like.
I noticed the height blends in with the house next door to it.
Exactly, we try to address that, so the height would maintain the similar of what we have adjacent to the property.
Is there any signage on the building?
Yes, there is. We are proposing signage, 18 square feet of signage located on the Brook Street elevation and the Heckel Street elevation.
I have no further questions, Mr. Whitney.
Okay. Any questions by members of the board? Well, go ahead. Question on the board. Go ahead.
Is that driving? What is it?
Yeah, we stopped there, driving finish.
Pass it over to us, please. Here to side.
Apologies.
What's in this wall? Hey, thank you.
Did you happen to have an opportunity to meet our engineering report?
I did. So,
Can we just,
I have read that.
okay. No, would you just repeat the question again?
I asked if he read our engineer's report, yeah, if he had any objections to some of the things that he noted.
I have no objections to the 3 items that are addressed by the architect should be 3, 6, 7, and 8, and I have no objections to any of those.
Can you say what they are?
Sure, we shall provide a
Mr.
handicap.
Tony is looking for you.
Sure. We should provide a handicap parking spot. And we'll comply with that. We shall prepare the existing asphalt. We already discussed that originally. They would like us to add bollards, concrete bollards protecting the entryway, which we have
Where
probably.
is that? Where are we going to put that? Oh, okay. You mean at the corner, where the entrance is?
No, the stairs. Yeah, the stairs, they were concerned about the stairs.
Oh, in the back with the parking?
Correct.
Okay.
They were requesting concrete bollards, so we have no.
Because the entrance to the building is right at the corner.
Correct. So they were requesting bollards to protect this area, which again,
Okay.
we have no, any
No
safety
objection
matter,
to
we have
that?
no objection to any of that.
Okay.
And we already addressed, item A was to discuss the treatment of the exterior, which is going to be decorative stuff.
All right. Any other questions by members of the board?
The signage gonna be lit?
The signage should comply with any standard by the board.
Yes.
Like, are you
Is it lit?
lighting it? Do you want to light the sign?
Is there signage?
No. Yeah, the signage doesn't need to be lit. No lighting on the sign.
Just ask them.
Yeah. Great. No, no lighting on the sign.
Any other questions?
Just one question. On the engineer's report, he said the applicant should address deliveries to the site. Are there any real deliveries? This is just an office, so it's a paper and stuff for the break room, right? There's really no, you're not keeping any sprinkler equipment or...
I think that answer should be made by...
Yeah, I would like to address that, but I would agree
Okay.
with that.
Jay?
Yes. No, everything that we get for the office is just brought from Staples in our personal vehicles.
I have a question, you could probably address it.
Yes, sir.
Given that this location is in a residential area,
Yes, sir.
there's some type of program that's going on around in town where they're putting planters in strategic areas. Would you be okay with having planters put out on the sidewalk along with that program because of the residential area that you're going to be in?
Absolutely.
We've done that with a couple recent applications.
We certainly have no objection to that being a condition should the board see fit to approve the application.
Actually, there's one case right down the street, on the other side of the street.
We'd be more than happy to do that.
Okay.
You also have some security cameras inside or outside your building?
We don't have anything proposed, but it's,
Just because this neighborhood sometimes has a little bit more unfortunate activity than others in Belleville. It might be a nice community gesture if you had some sort of a security system,
I can
video
make that
surveillance system, if it is something you would...
So an exterior camera you're
Exterior
looking
camera. 'Cause you
on
are
the Heckel and Brookside?
Sorry?
Heckel and Brookside?
Yes, yeah.
That's not a problem.
You don't mind, right?
We'll do that.
Okay,
Yeah, it would be a deterrent given that it's close to the Newark border.
Yeah, and it's on a corner,
Yeah,
it's
it's a
a
corner.
strategic location.
I think it would be a really nice community gesture if you had that.
Absolutely.
It's a beautiful building, which you're proposing here, so having the camera would be a compliment to the neighborhood.
Okay. Any other questions by members of the board of either witness? Any questions by members of the public of either witness based upon testimony given? None? Okay, Mr. Gassion, you can call your next witness.
Mr. Williams.
Mr. Williams.
He didn't like the tone of that, what you said.
Why? I think he's very good.
Mr. Williams should open up an office in the building here
He needs to check his credentials.
extensively. Could you,
Is he coming as a planner?
He is, that's the only thing
All right,
he
that's all
appears
he
as.
does. And is he, you still have your license, Mr. Williams?
I do.
All right, we can cut to the chase and get
well,
on.
let me swear him in.
All right.
With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I most certainly do.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Williams, would you give us a planning overview of this application?
Yes, certainly, and I'll try to be brief, almost as brief as Patrick, but hang in there with me. So this is an application for the expansion of a non-conforming use. As you've heard from our project architect, there is an existing one-story masonry building on what is truly an irregularly shaped lot. And it's also undersized for this district. Proposal is to build a second story to expand this building. It will be completely office use, really back office use for the applicant, complementing what he does at the other site. If approved, the building itself will be modernized. You'll see in the exhibits, it's currently in a state of disrepair. It serves no benefit to the public, but if you were to approve this application, I think it would complement the surrounding neighborhood. In fact, this is such an irregularly shaped lot, I would submit to this board that it would be challenging to build even a permitted use on the lot. There are a number of site improvements that the project architect has discussed, including the aesthetics of the building, particularly the fenestration and treatment of the facade, but also the paving and striping of the parking lot and some of the screening that we propose to the rear of the lot to kind of shield the residential properties behind us from what we are proposing. Finally, I'll just add that in terms of the proposed development, it's, in my opinion, a less intense use than what used to be there. Your staff were kind enough to share with me the history of this property. It began as a garage back in the 40s, and the applicant has shared with me that in a more contemporary context, it was used for some sort of machining and assembly. So the proposed use is much more innocuous, and I think fits better in this particular zone.
Would you review the relief being sought?
Yes, certainly. Give me 1 second. Your board engineer, Mr. Harris, captured this in his report. I agree with the analysis of the reliefs being sought. First and foremost is the D2 use variance, and under the municipal land use law, you know that is for the expansion, change, or intensification of a non-conforming use. Non-conforming because neither offices or warehouses or machinery shops are amongst the permitted uses in your RC multifamily district. Parking, 11 spaces are required. We are proposing 4. Currently, there are no conforming parking spaces on the site. Loading spaces, 1 is required for commercial use. As you've heard, the strict application of the code in this instance may not be applicable to what we're proposing because in this case, there are no loading operations. It really is back office space. Commercial signage, you've heard testimony. No commercial signage is permitted in the RC district. This application proposes 2 modest signs just to identify the office location on Heckel and Brook.
Can you give us the dimensions?
18 square feet was the dimension that I heard quoted by the design team.
And there's no lighting on those signs?
That is correct. There are a plethora of pre-existing non-conforming uses. If you were to approve this application, none of those pre-existing deviations from your bulk and area standards would be exacerbated. They are captured in your board engineer's report, but just for the record, they include minimum lot area, minimum lot width, front yard setback, side yard setback, maximum lot coverage, maximum impervious surface coverage, parking space near a lot line, parking in the front yard, and open space. They are all as-is conditions, and since we are building vertically and not horizontally, none of those conditions would be changed. That is the condition of the property as is with a structure lawfully thereon.
Would you review the area surrounding the site?
Yes, very quickly, what I'd like to do is enter a very simple exhibit. It's just a photo survey of the site and surrounding area to guide the testimony.
The square footage of the sign was 18 square feet, correct?
Correct.
A3. A3, yeah.
We thought we said inches, that's what.
Square feet, excuse me. Yes.
A3 is a booklet prepared by Mr. Williams.
I have a booklet, none for the chairman.
Me and her share.
Like in the city.
Now that we've handed out your list, your photo list or your photo, you can please review that with the board.
Certainly, I'll begin with a bit of housekeeping. I noticed there are 2 minor errors in this exhibit. One is the use of the term vortex, which my teenage daughter corrected me on, and the other is I refer to Bloomfield instead of Newark, and I'll point that out when I get there. These are all pictures taken of the site and surrounding area that I and/or my staff took during one of our several visits to the site. The most recent visit was, I believe, a week ago, either on Friday or Saturday, but earlier on in our involvement with the application, we visited the site as well. Really, just to give context, several pictures of the site. The first is a frontal view of 32-34 Heckel Street, and it captures the existing building at the corner. You see an irregularly shaped building on an irregularly shaped lot. You'll note some of the massing and heights in the surrounding area. I was glad that the chairman noticed that the intent of the design team was to match or complement the existing massing and heights. There are a variety of heights and massings in this area, but certainly in the immediate vicinity, they are very similar to what's being proposed by this applicant. The next page is a view of the side elevation. This is the Brook Street elevation, and here's where the word vortex popped in. Clearly, it's not a vortex. But the intent was to show that it is an irregularly shaped lot, triangular shaped building with a door at the intersection of Brook and Heckel. The value of this picture, in my opinion, also is that it captures the state of disrepair of the building as it exists now. Certainly not something that complements the surrounding community. The windows are in poor condition, and some of the facade areas are also in poor condition. Next page is a rear of the site, and you can see that although it may have once been a garage, it's no longer capable of taking vehicles. It's got a solid rear facade with just one entry point, and the rear lot is in disrepair, as you can see as well. No conforming pavement, striping, or parking stalls on that side. The rear view also helps show the context of this neighborhood, the surrounding height and massing. I will concede that there are a variety of housing typologies, sizes up and down Heckel Street. There's no real uniformity, but at least on the immediate sides of our property, they seem to conform with what we are proposing. The next page is the view of our property looking towards Bloomfield Avenue, not Bloomfield, and you'll see there are a variety of housing typologies I just mentioned earlier. On this side of the street, the house next to our property was captured in a prior view. If we went further north, what's not captured in this handout is there is another commercial use, also single-story. It looks or presents as a garage, but when you look a little closer, look at the records, it's clearly some other commercial type of use. Looks like they've got a machine shop back there and an office space as well. I believe that's 44 Heckel Street. The next page is a view of the Heckel Street streetscape facing Bloomfield Avenue. That's where the confusion begins for the next page. But this gives you a sense of the land development pattern on Heckel Street going south. Again, a variety of housing types, and you can see the focal point being Bloomfield Avenue. The following page, last page, is an image on the south side of Heckel Street, and it shows the mix of land uses, including residential and commercial. It is, however, in Newark, not Bloomfield, so that's the other area.
Would you review the general planning issues?
Certainly, the general planning issues, again, the expansion of a non-conforming use, and as this board knows, the D2 relief standard is a bit different than the D1 because the courts have found that a expansion of a non-conforming use is not the same as a wholly new non-permitted use. And so the courts have suggested that the boards can look at the applications for D2 variances with greater liberality, particularly when it comes to the negative criteria and a discussion about the detriment to the public good and impairment to the zone plan, again, because they've been there for such an extended period of time. In this case, the property has been like this dating back to the early 1940s. Special reasons in the case of D2 variances under several court cases, certainly the landmark Burbridge v. Mine Hill court case, allows the board to consider as a special reason aesthetics, visual environment, improvements to the non-conforming use, particularly when there's an attempt to harmonize the non-conforming use with the surrounding environment. And there's a quote that you've probably heard me use before that comes from Judge Clifford that suggests in the Burbridge case the following. Give me 1 second. Judge Clifford suggests that when a lawfully created pre-existing non-conforming use cannot be eliminated, the municipality may and should seek to harmonize the use with its environments. To this end, the municipality ought to require aesthetic improvement as a condition of expansion. The municipality's ability to insist on specific changes as part of the expansion safeguards the general welfare in general. So that visual conformity is part and parcel of our application. The testimony of the project architect was intended to demonstrate to this board that we're going to take a property that's been fallow for some time and is clearly in disrepair and expand it, but expand it with some sensitivity to the design and aesthetics.
Want to review the positive criteria?
Certainly, the positive criteria under a D variance, as you know, can be established by showing that the purposes of zoning will be advanced, the use is inherently beneficial, particularly suited to the site, or if you denied our application would be an undue hardship. For a D2 variance, the particular suitability is not necessary, but I would argue that this site is particularly suitable because of the pre-existing conditions and the unlikelihood that other types of uses could develop here. In terms of the purposes of zoning, in my professional opinion, under 40:55D-2, Section A would be advanced. Section A is the catch-all, it's the first purpose of zoning, and it is to encourage municipal action to guide the appropriate use or development of all lands in the state in a manner which will promote the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare. And given the Burbridge context for D2 variances, the removal of blight, in this case, and the replacement with an aesthetically pleasing design actually advances the general welfare. Subsection G to provide sufficient space in appropriate locations for a variety of agricultural, residential, recreational, commercial, and industrial uses and open space, both public and private, according to their respective environmental requirements in order to meet the needs of all New Jersey citizens. In my professional opinion, if you were to grant this relief, you would be providing an opportunity for an office to be located here at a site that seems appropriate for that type of use, given its uniqueness and meeting the needs of the office market. Parenthetically, your master plan does encourage, in general, the support of the office and commercial economy here in Belleville. Finally, subsection I, promote a desirable visual environment through creative development techniques and a good civic design and arrangement. The project architect talked about the materials, the fenestration, adding cameras, all of these things to lead to good civic design, aesthetics, and in terms of good civic design, the layout of the parking lot, as well as efforts to screen the rear of our lot from our residential neighbors to the east.
Would you review the negative criteria?
Certainly. Again, remembering the standard under Burbridge is greater liberality. The test is a two-pronged test, as this board knows. The first is no substantial detriment to the public good. The second is no substantial impairment to the zone plan. In my professional opinion, there would be no substantial detriment to the public good, in part because you're replacing what is an abandoned vacant building in disrepair with a building that's been properly designed and will contribute to the overall character of this community. The proposed use is also less intense, arguably, than the prior uses of this building, particularly when it was used for some sort of machining or assembly. In terms of the impairment to the zone plan, again, in my opinion, there's absolutely no impairment to the zone plan. Certainly not substantial, and that word substantial comes from the municipal land use law. According to my review of the plan, there are at least a couple of sections that would be advanced if you were to permit our expansion of this non-conforming use. The first is recommendation number 12, to enhance community appearance and the visual environment by encouraging good design for new and rehabilitated buildings through the proper planning, landscaping, and design where neighborhoods or business areas are being revitalized. The other, and perhaps more apt, is the re-examination report notes that many vacant and underutilized parcels and distinctive disinvestment within the community are a weakness to the city. Existing zoning is not consistent with the unique character of the community, making much of the existing urban fabric that defines the community character non-conforming. If you were to approve this application, it would be just the opposite. It would recognize the current fabric of the community and would allow an opportunity to take an underutilized or vacant property and bring it back to functionality.
Would you, as a last comment, would you review the parking variance?
Yes, certainly. As I I mentioned, all the other Vulcan area deviations are pre-existing, the parking is new. In my professional opinion, that would be cognizable under the C2, which is a flexible C variance. It allows this board to consider the benefits versus detriments analysis, or if on the whole, what we propose is a better zoning alternative than a strict application of your code. And in my opinion, that's appropriate in this case for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, as you know, this is well, you've heard testimony, this is a back office space. It's not the type of office typically contemplated in codes. In fact, many codes talk about professional offices, medical offices, retail offices. This is none of those. It's a bit different, and that's going to be important, particularly when I talk about the parking count. But generally speaking, it's my opinion that the trade-off here is to allow a well-designed, aesthetically pleasing office building and a lot that's suitable for that type of use. Have the fencing at the rear to screen the lot, but allow for a deviation from the strict application of the code. And I would say it's akin to the deviation from your loading dock requirement, simply because this type of use does not require as many spaces. Under the Kaufman Court case, there are a couple steps that we have to go through. First, it relates to a specific piece of property. Again, this is a unique piece of property in an RC district located at a corner lot, irregularly shaped lot with a irregularly shaped building as well. Might not recommend the same thing if this were elsewhere. The purposes of the municipal land use law would be advanced. In my professional opinion, again, the general welfare would be advanced because we're removing a blighted area and we're blighted building, and we are right-sizing the parking accommodation on site, but also the visual environment would be improved, just like we heard for the D2 use variance. Second, third, the variance can be granted without substantial detriment to the public good. In my professional opinion, there'd be no detriment to the public good because the parking is appropriate, the parking accommodation is appropriate for the actual demand for parking at the site for this type of use. I did look at one of our desk references in the office. It's the APA Parking Standards Handbook, and it realizes that there are a variety of office types, each of which have different parking demands. And when you look at back office space, it looks at examples of codes that allow one space per 800 square feet. In our scenario, that would be the equivalent of 4.06 spaces on our lot. The other example is 1 per 500 square feet, and in our context, that would be 6.5 spaces on our lot. Obviously, the Belleville code is what governs this application, but in the context of some of the case law, like the Valenti v. Absecon court case, which allows the board to consider if the industry standard or the particular use does not require the same number of spaces as is required through the strict application of the code, you can consider the relief under the C2. The Jacoby case similarly echoes that, but also adds that there can be trade-offs as part of your consideration when, if you're allowing fewer parking spaces but adding screening and buffering, that's a consideration you can take into part of your deliberation as well. Finally, the benefits outweigh the detriments. You're getting conforming quality parking spaces, striped and screened, and there will be no detriments. So I'm getting to wrap it up on that. I will stop there.
Obviously, no further questions, no further witnesses.
Okay, any members of the board have a question? Mr. Milano? No questions by Mr. Milano. Anybody else? No? Okay, any members of the public have any questions of the witness based upon testimony given? I have one question. I don't know if it's for you, the architect, or whatever. On this picture, those gray rectangulars, are those lights? Those are lights that light up and down?
The designer took a little bit of artistic freedom. We didn't actually put the lights there.
Oh, no, I've seen these in other buildings. They look very nice. That's why I thought maybe they were lights. You know, they go up and they go down.
Up and down, like?
Yeah.
We would take that into consideration. I just don't want to consider it as part of the application.
They look very nice. You know, because they, I mean, that's a corner.
It would illuminate the area.
They would illuminate the area, exactly. I think they would be nice. They're in your rendering.
Yeah, our high school best friend is our electrician, so give him more work, that's fine. Done.
no problem with them. At least one on either side of the doors would look nice.
Well, no, they got one right over the door, which is perfect. And then they got them spaced, but they do not throw a lot of light, by the way. They only throw some light going up and some light going down, but it's not really a lot of light. But it's enough to illuminate the whole building around it, if anybody's walking on the sidewalk. Yes, and it looks very nice, very classy.
Especially given that we have the light rail close by, we would like to have a lot of commuters and pedestrians walking, so the more light, the better it is for the area.
And then we also complement the security camera system.
That's right.
It's good for us.
And then,
I love when a plan comes together.
Are these copyrighted pictures?
No.
But.
Now, you have no problem with a condition that there's only one business in the building, correct?
Absolutely, it's only ours.
Okay.
That's it.
All right, I want that as a condition.
Yeah.
Especially since there's limited parking.
And the hours.
And the hours. The hours they testified to.
8:30 to 4, Monday through...
Well, yeah, but I'd like a little wider scope of the hours.
Whatever he wants, tell him to say it.
What would you like as an outside hour? 8 to 6, does that cover you?
Could we do 7 to 6? Just in the event.
Yeah, it's not like you're making a lot of
7 to
noise.
6, 5 days a week, what about Saturday?
Potentially Saturdays, but not.
7 a.m. to 6 p.m.
5 days a week, and let's just say
On-
7 to 12 on Saturday.
I think that's more than fair.
You don't need the afternoon on Saturday?
No, sir.
Okay.
I'm not a slave driver. I don't keep my people here until 10 o'clock at night.
Business type of guy.
He's telling you something here, until 10 o'clock at night.
You know,
It is almost 10 o'clock.
I didn't say 10 at night, I said in the afternoon. He said till 12 noon. I said till in the afternoon.
One of my children.
Okay, let's move.
All right.
One of my colleagues.
Mr. Gassion, are you going to sum up, or we don't
Is
need
there
you to sum up?
anybody?
Does any member of the public have any questions? Any member of the public wish to give testimony? None, okay.
Then I'll be just very brief.
I
Mr.
hope
Chairman,
so.
members of the board, this is an irregularly shaped lot. It's an RC zone, not currently being used, vacant and appears abandoned. It's a D2 variance. There are bulk issues, most of which are pre-existing. We're striping and paving a parking area for 4 cars. We're buffering the residential property to the east. It's less intense than the previous uses, which we understand to be a garage and light manufacturing. The visual conformity and aesthetics, it's an improvement, and that's your basis for your D2 approval. The proposed use is office use and not an intense use, and in fact, less intense than what had been there previously. There's no substantial detriment, obviously. There's only a benefit, and in keeping with the Kaufman case, this is an opportunity for improved zoning. I thank the board for their time and attention.
Okay. Do I have discussion amongst the board members? Mr. Milano?
It's a good project,
I think it's a great project.
good project. I like the concept.
I like the lights.
Nice. It's good for the area.
I think the residents on Brook are going to be very happy with this project in the one that we approved previously.
Yes. And the residents on Heckel.
So that being said, motion to
Motion made to approve by Mr. Milano with what conditions?
hours,
Everything that-
Hours?
Reports, planters.
like the planners,
Now, he indicated no lighting for the signage,
No,
but we're
signage.
leaning toward lighting.
The lighting on the outside of the building.
Yeah, where those little gray areas things are.
Okay,
and the signage was,
and
like,
one business.
I think we had a
And one
particular
business, yes.
square footage kind of signage.
Yeah, 18 square feet, I think.
Is that all right?
Is that all right?
Is that
Two signs, 3 by 6.
Two signs.
So 18 square feet per sign.
Two
One on
signs,
each
3
side.
by 6.
Wait.
Two signs, 3 by 6,
Wait a
one on
minute.
each side.
Wait
One on
a
Heckel,
minute.
one on...
Chairman,
What?
we have to see what complies in that.
That's a residential zone. A lot of
Right.
signs don't comply with that. I think only 1 square feet.
We're looking for a variance for that.
Yeah.
We sought the variance for
We
that.
saw it, okay.
So that's what I'm saying, we'll put that as a variance.
So what is the signage variance size? What an underwear,
The one that they're saying is 3 by 6.
3 by 6, okay.
Yeah, 3 by
That's
6.
not enough.
2 3 by 6 signs,
One on
18
each
square
side,
feet.
one on Heckel and one on Brook.
There's they're not gonna be lit.
And they're not gonna be
Right.
lit. The only light is gonna be those little things that we
That's
call,
fine.
and the cameras, video surveillance cameras. That should, yeah, should cover their parking lot and cover each side of the building on Heckel and on Broad.
There you go, you got one business for your friend.
That's great. I'm good with that.
And that completes my motion.
And
Oh, I
second
get it. Oh, and it's seconded by Ms. Lothar. Okay. So Ms. Lozow seconds the motion. You need anything else?
No, I'm
Right
good.
now?
I'm good.
No,
I'm
okay.
good.
Clerk, call the roll.
Bennett,
Yes.
Caruso,
Yeah.
Lopez,
Yes.
Lozo,
Yes.
Sheldon,
Yes.
Milano,
Yes.
Del Garcia.
Yes. Okay, now, do we want to try and get the last case done? I'm trying to be nice, but I want to get this out of the way.
I'm thinking another 36. That was a complicated job.
Mr. Gassion, you prepared for that?
I'm prepared. I have my witnesses still here and I'm prepared.
Okay, I want to try and get it out of the way. Thank you. You had to come. Let me know. All right.
Take care.
It's a good day. Don't forget.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate your time.
No problem. Good luck. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Please make us proud.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Brian.
Is this it?
Yeah, early. Yeah, I called.
Oh, yeah.
Want to take a 5-minute recess? Willie just walked out, that's why I asked the question. Who?
We already decided we're taking a 5-minute
Yes, we're going to take a 5-minute recess. I can use the Board of Adjustments, May 2nd, 2019 meeting will now come back into session. Mr. Gassion.
Yes, Mr.
We're now
Chairman.
doing ZB 2019-07. The applicant is seeking approval to convert a 3,500 tenant space on the entire ground level and part of the lower level of an existing mixed-use building for an adult daycare. And that's at 114, 116 Washington Ave. Mario Milan.
Just for clarification, lower level is only a small storage area, has nothing to do
In
with
the
the business
basement,
operation. The basement.
Yeah, because I went by there before we started the meeting tonight.
I have.
Everything's on the ground level, street level.
Okay, where's our, are you the first witness gonna be your landlord?
Well,
My first witness is gonna
Notice
be
is
the applicant.
fine, I'm gonna mark it A1,
A1 for no.
and then you can, I'm good to go.
Okay, let's get started.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, council's name is Robert Gassion, the firm is Gassion Vermaco, 524 Union Avenue in Belleville. I represent the applicant in this matter, Mario Milan. My client is seeking preliminary and final major site plan approval, use and bulk variances necessary to convert 3,500 square feet of space
on the ground floor to an adult daycare center. The property is located in a BG commercial residential mixed-use zone, similar zone to what the first application we did.
Hopefully,
Yeah, better luck.
This is a D or use variance and bulk variances with regard to the size of the property that's needed. The witnesses you'll hear from are Mario Milan, possibly Rhonda Morrison, his associate, Susanna Tavera, the architect, and Chuck Stewart, the engineer and planner. Mario will review what they are seeking to do and the proposed operation of the business. Peter will describe the interior changes and one exterior change, which is the proposal of a canopy over the rear stairs. And I'm wrong, Peter will not be doing it, Susanna will. The final witness will be Chuck Stewart, who will review the site plan and parking. He will also discuss the drop-off and pickup and review how the proposed use is inherently beneficial. I'd like to call my first witness, Mario Milan.
Mr. Milan, could you raise your right hand, please, with regard to this application? Do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yeah.
Thank you. State your name, spell your last name.
Mario Milan, M-I-L-L-A-N,
Thank you.
Mario, what is your home address?
1196 Hell Avenue in Clark, New Jersey.
And what experience, if any, do you have with regard to residential health care?
I worked for 3 years for a facility in Newark.
And do you have an associate who has vast experience?
Yes, my associate has 19 years of experience of working in the same place.
And was she the manager of a facility?
Yes, she was.
And what is it you're seeking approval to do?
An adult daycare, a health adult daycare.
And who, if this is approved, will you expect to serve in that adult daycare facility?
Most of my clients are coming from right here from Belleville, Nutley, North Arlington, and some from North.
And how do your clients get to your location on a daily basis?
We provide transportation for them on a daily basis.
And what kind of transportation? Do you have a minivan? How is that done?
I have a van.
And are any of your clients going to be coming by themselves?
No.
Everyone will be picked up and brought to the location. Is that accurate?
Yes, sir.
And what hours do you expect to be open?
7 to 5.
And how many employees, if this application is approved, will you have?
8.
And in what capacity will those employees serve?
Of course, I have my 19-year experience woman. She's going to be my administrator.
And again, her name is?
Rhonda Morrison.
Okay.
I have a chef and an assistant cook in the property, and I also have the bus driver, myself, and 2 employees that will be working on the floor with it.
Is there an LPN on duty at all times?
Yes, definitely. There's going to be an employee, LPN, and also a doctor on call.
And doctor is only going to be as needed, is that correct?
Yes.
And do you know anything about how this area of the building has been used previously?
All I know there's been a baby store for, I think it's 10 years now, and actually from none of it has been closed. He's been doing it offline. That's as far as I got on him.
And did you take any photographs of the front of your building?
Yes, I did. I have several. I got a company to install civilian cameras. 2 on the outside.
Okay, go slow and speak a little louder. You got a company to install security cameras?
Yes. 2 in the, 1 in the back, 1 in the front, and 3 in the inside of the facility.
And as a result of those security cameras, were you able to take photographs of Washington Avenue?
Yes, I did.
And can you?
I have photos.
And these photos, are they time marked?
Yes, they're on the very top right. It's dated in time.
Okay. And were these taken by you?
Yes.
And from where were they taken?
From the recording of the camera system from the front of the facility.
Okay. And does this show the front of your building?
Yes, it does.
And what time and when was that taken?
This is 7:06 in the morning.
And-
The day was the 3rd.
And this, what does that one show?
Is the front of the facility as well. This was on the 12th of the last month. This was taken at 7:08 in the morning.
And was this one taken at 7:27?
Yes, sir.
And do they all show the front of the facility and no one parked there at that time? I'd like to submit this as A2, a series of photographs of the front of the
How many total photos are there?
3, I believe.
Right, A2, series of 3 photos. Maybe they can be marked A, B, and C. A2, A, B, and C.
So based on those photos, is it your opinion that the drop-off in the morning of your clients will not be a problem on Washington Avenue?
It should not affect the Washington Avenue.
And in order to operate, strike that, as to the pickup of your clients, about what time will that be done?
They get picked up around 7, and usually they'll be in front of the facility around 7:30. Reason I know this is because I had done lunch for them in the property. And
The reason you know is because why?
I have taken a couple of my clients over to the business for lunch with us, and we had done it in the morning or breakfast and stuff. And we know that we've been able to park there every single time with no problem.
Now, will you obtain health department approval in order to operate this business?
Last steps out getting the approval should be coming in time now.
So you have applied and you're waiting for the final approval?
Yes.
And what is your expected number of clients, maximum number of clients, that you think you will be able to serve at this location?
It's 50 clients.
And the minibus that will be delivering them, how many clients will be in each bus?
There's 14 clients, the driver and an assistant.
So it'll be 14 clients per bus.
Yes.
And can you tell the board what kind of services will be available for the senior citizens that are your clients?
We're gonna have board games, we're gonna have knitting classes, we're gonna have also, of course, the medical, if they're there to see them, blood pressure and everything like that, that's gonna be done on a daily basis. We will take them out shopping if they have to, or get the medication, take them wherever they need. Of course, that's not an everyday thing, but that will be one of the things that we provide.
And you'll be providing breakfast and lunch?
Breakfast and lunch.
And you'll have an LPN available at all times, should that be necessary?
No, it has to be LPN there.
No, I don't mean, when I say should it be necessary that somebody needs something, the LPN will be available at all times?
Yes, she has to be there.
I have no further questions to this witness, Mr. Chairman.
Do you own the building?
No, I'm leasing.
You're gonna be leasing the building? And are you gonna have how many buses? 3?
Yes, 3. Right now, we only have 3, but we're thinking about getting a 4th.
A 4th?
Yeah.
Is there some place for them to be parked?
Yes, I also have a parking. lot in
We'll
the
have
back of
testimony
14.
with regard to the parking, and there are 14 spaces available on the lot behind,
Okay. You mean on Greenwich?
on Greenwich Street.
Right. You're gonna get state licensing for this, I assume?
Yes.
Require state license. That's why-
Again, he's almost done with his
Yeah,
state
almost.
license.
Department of Health? Or-
Well, yeah, with the Department of Health.
Do you know how many tenants are in that building?
They're 9.
9.
They're condominiums above.
Oh, their own?
Yes.
Do you know if they have a parking space assigned to them?
They also have their own spots in the same lot, but they have their own private sections. Each parking spot is paid by them.
Mr. Stewart will describe where that lot is.
Because I think this
Pretty
case
close
may have
proximity
come
to the
before us
building.
4 years ago, when they were being converted. I think it may have come before us. I'm not positive. I'm going back a couple decades, let's put it that way.
Not something
any
I
other-
remember handling, not my office.
Any other member of the board have questions?
Sorry,
Mr.
I have a few questions. Currently, there are two businesses on the ground floor. There's, as you said earlier, Baby Store, Baby 123,
It used to be that, yes.
and then Luxtown. Those businesses are gone right now?
They're both with the same owner.
Right.
He was running both, yeah,
They're gone, all right.
he's gone online right now.
All right, so those stores, they're vacant, those
Yes.
stores? All right, okay. You mentioned earlier that your hours of operation are 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Is that just Monday through Friday?
Yes, sir.
You have no Saturday?
No.
No Saturday hours, okay. And with the services you're providing to seniors, is there any rehabilitation or physical therapy
No, we're not.
being
we're
done on
not-
site?
No, we're not
Right.
prepared for any of that.
It's just social,
It's
you
just-
provide meals and...
Yeah.
All right. Are you dealing with any Alzheimer's issues or dementia?
Also, we not, because we not actually qualified for it, let's say. DCA and the health department require different licenses for that.
We need additional licenses
Yeah.
to handle that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, all right. All right, that's it for now, thank you.
Any other questions by members of the board?
Did you say you had images of Washington Avenue from your cameras in the afternoon?
No, morning,
Just in the morning?
7.
7 in the morning.
7 to 7:27, I think they are.
So that's the time that you're going to be picking up, I think you refer to them as clients, in 3 minibuses? Yeah. Bringing them to the facility? Yeah. And they're going to be entering the facility through where? Washington. Through Washington Avenue. There is no access through the back? Yes, we do have it. I do have access through the back. And are they going to be leaving the facilities at 5 o'clock in the afternoon? No, they actually leave somewhere from 1 to 2 o'clock. But of course, the staff has to stay there a couple hours to make sure clean up and prepare for the following day. So around 1, 2 o'clock? Yes, clients are out of there by 1, 2 o'clock, yeah. And how would they be leaving the facility? Also in the same buses. The same buses on Washington Avenue? No, actually, we could do the drop-off.
The engineer will be better able to explain that procedure, and I'll have him get into that in detail. I just wanted Mr. Milan to explain that he had taken the photographs in the front in the early morning so that it's clear there'll be no problem dropping off in the morning. But there is, as he indicated, a back exit or entrance, whichever you like, and that will be reviewed by the architect and the engineer.
Okay, Mr. Caruso.
How many parking places do you have in the back on Greenwich?
14.
How many?
14.
All right. In the front of the building, did they remove a parking meter? And give you
No,
a-
we actually was talking
Well,
about that.
Yeah, I don't know that we can get that approval because, Tom might know better than me or Frank, I think this is either a county road or a state highway,
It's a state highway.
and I don't think we can get that approval.
It looks like a meter has been removed from there, according to the picture.
No, it's the way the picture, the way I made it to make the time more visible. I enlarged the photo so that section of it got cut off. I was just trying to bring the clock
All right,
in.
in the back of the building, where is there, parking area or right near the building?
The parking area is right across the street.
I
Yeah.
mean, on Greenwood Street,
Yeah.
was there
Yeah.
an area? Well, don't other stores use that same?
No, this is a private lot. Private parking is only for the tenants that have the condominium upstairs and our 14 spots. Literally, we have to the right, in the middle is all my parking spots. The surrounding L shape belongs to all the tenants in the. You see, for some reason, when those condominiums got sold, they got sold also separately, the parking. So some of them have 2 parking, some of them just have 1. So I don't, whoever didn't buy one, I guess they don't have it. But so far, for what I know, everybody there has a parking space.
What size are the parking areas? 9 by 19?
The engineer would be better able to answer that question, Mr. Caruso, and he will be up. The last witness will be the engineer.
Any other questions by members of the board of the witness? Any questions by members of the public of the witness based upon his testimony?
I just want to know,
Yes.
are all your clients ambulatory? They
Yes.
all walk?
Yes.
No wheelchairs or?
Well, we going down that line because of the fact that, of course, we don't have, we failing into, to provide that accessibility for them. So all the clients that we are gotten so far is just ambulatory.
Because the rear is steps.
Yeah.
And there's no, you need to put a, you had to put a ramp, they have wheelchairs on Washington Avenue.
Yeah.
So they'd have to be ambulatory, unless they're carried in.
Yeah.
Any other questions?
The other concern about Washington Avenue is the construction in 21 is going to reduce that. So for these vehicles to stop there every morning, on the back.
Construction.
And in 2021, they're going to do.
The road diet's still gonna have the park, it's still gonna be it's just you'll move to 3 lanes, that's all.
Right.
Instead of 4 lanes, it'll be 3 lanes, but the parking will still be,
The
area.
parking will still be there, right?
Yes.
But if somebody's parked there, and he blocks
What
the
he
one-
said, I don't know how that's gonna work, I don't know how deliveries are gonna work on Washington Avenue with that.
Well, we don't have deliveries down to the facility either. The food shopping will be done by my employee, my chef, and the assistant, and that comes into the back. There's no delivery done whatsoever there. Yeah, I'm just saying it because I know that they're going to be doing some type of construction on Washington Avenue. You may want to take that into consideration in the operation of the dropping off and even picking up in the afternoon. Might affect traffic.
Will you have to take clients, let's say clients have an appointment with a doctor during the day, would you be transporting them from your facility to the doctor?
No, actually, we will send the driver to their facility, picks them up and takes them directly to the doctor and back to the facility. Never touches my facility. Yeah, and they never come into my facility unless if it's hourly, if they're scheduled to do in the time that we have them in our daycare.
That's what I'm talking about.
Then, yeah, they will go out and they will be taken.
With your van?
Yes.
Now, is your van handicapped accessible, your vans?
No.
They're not handicapped accessible?
No. That's why we sticking with ambulatory because it's, what DCA is, DCA and the health department, you need different licenses for all these things, and right now we just we're not capable of handling, stuff like that.
Any other questions by members of the board?
Just one last question. There is another adult daycare center further up on Washington Avenue.
Yes.
Are you completely independent, or do you have any relationship with that
completely
business?
independent, yes.
All right.
There's also one on Union Avenue and Mill Street.
Yes.
Any other questions by members of the board? Any questions, again, by members of the public of this witness based upon his testimony? Okay, Mr. Gassion, you can call your next witness.
Thank you. Suzanne?
Could you raise your right hand, please? In regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
I do.
State your name, please, and spell your first and last name.
Sure, Susanna Tavera, Susana Tavera.
Thank you.
Susanna, what's your business address
697 Bluefield Avenue in West Colville, New Jersey.
and your occupation?
I'm a licensed architect.
How long practicing in the field of architecture?
I've been licensed for about 3.5 years.
And from what school did you graduate and what degree did you obtain?
New Jersey Institute of Technology, I have a master's in architecture.
So you do have a postgraduate degree in architecture.
I do.
And you're a licensed architect of the state of New Jersey?
I am.
Just briefly give the board the benefit of some of your experience in the field of architecture.
Sure, I've been in the field for over 10 years, and I've been working with, doing a lot of commercial projects and multifamily housing projects.
Are you a member of any societies or professional groups connected with your work?
I am a member of AIA and NCARB.
And have you testified previously before zoning boards and planning boards?
I have.
And were you accepted as an expert in the field of architecture?
I was.
Mr. Chairman, I submit that Susanna Tavera is a licensed architect and qualified to testify.
So moved.
would you describe the existing structure on the site with emphasis on the portion of the structure that will be used by your client?
Absolutely. So the existing building is a 3-story building from Washington Ave. There's apartments on the 2 floors above us, and the first floor is completely going to be our space, except for the side entrance into the apartments. In the rear, there is a full walkout basement, which we have a small storage space, and there is also another apartment down there.
And will any alterations be done within the interior of the space being occupied by your client?
Yes, we will be adding some interior rooms and some restrooms.
And will there be any changes to the exterior, again, the portion being occupied by your client?
There are no proposed changes to the exterior.
And would you describe how the first floor will be after the interior changes are made? Dining area, whatever it may be.
Sure. So we intend the entrance to be through the front. There is no step up here, so they would come right in. The majority of the layout is for the guests or the clients to occupy, with tables for them to either play games or eat or just hang out. And then all these other rooms that you see are actually required by the state. The first plan that we submitted was prior to us getting comments back from the state, from the health department, so they required all these extra rooms. There's a room for the nurse and space for the doctor to see their clients. There's a quiet room, so if the client wants to spend some alone time, they have a certain square footage requirement that the state requires, so we accommodated that. There had to be some additional offices for administrators, and then there had to be a certain amount of restrooms for their clients. The kitchen's in the back, and there's a reception area, and it's not going to be walled off, it's just in the space.
Would you discuss the access through the front door and how the clients would be coming to the site?
Yes. So as we stated, drop-off would be on Washington. Clients would enter through the front of the space. They are not intended to come in through the rear. The rear is mostly just for employees that are parking their cars across the street, because as we stated, clients are not driving themselves to this site.
And can they egress through the back, if necessary, down the stairs?
They can.
And is there any signage that will be put up at this location?
Yes, we propose a sign, a non-illuminated sign in the front as seen on the elevation.
And did you have an opportunity to review Mr. Harrich's report?
I did.
And do you have any comments with regard to that report?
I have a few. So the lower level, as we stated before, is just going to be primarily storage. So that's why.
Not primarily, will it be only storage?
Yes, it's a small
There's
space.
no other use for it, is there?
No, I mean, it takes up about, it doesn't take up the full length of the space here, so it's very small. They're not going to be able to put anything down there except storage. There is access from that basement, though, out into the Greenwich.
So, if I may, Mr. Gassion,
Certainly.
drop-off is on Washington Ave, correct?
Correct.
Drop-off?
On Washington Avenue.
Washington Ave, right. Are they leaving via Washington Avenue?
The hope is that they will leave via Washington Avenue. Mr. Stewart, the engineer, will discuss that in detail.
Because, I mean, you're not, this is not, how they getting down the stairs? The clients, you know, are they gonna be traversing the stairs down to go out back?
That is not the choice, but if necessary, we have only mobile patients. But again, I'd rather Mr. Stewart, he asked those questions of Mr. Stewart, I don't want to be testifying as an attorney. He'll be up next.
Okay.
Can I ask her a question? Is there any condominiums on the first floor?
No, just the
Not on the first
entrance,
floor.
just this entrance.
Now, the entrance that comes in to the condominiums, which is on the left of the building, extreme left of the building, do they have any access to get out the back door of the building?
I believe so. There is a door back here on the basement level. That also gives them access into the condos.
Oh, and that's below the
Yes,
the
our
level of where you're gonna have this business?
Exactly.
Okay. So is there an apartment in the lower level below
There is,
this?
yes.
Is that an apartment there?
Yes.
With those windows?
Right,
Okay. So there's an apartment on the bottom, okay.
yes. That was another comment, that the condominium on the lower level will not be affected because it already exists, it has its own entrance, and we're not gonna be touching that. And that's it.
I have no further questions of this witness.
Any other questions by members of the board of the witness?
Yes, just one question for Mr. Varg. Your building has a great deal of plate glass. I just wanted, for my own edification, is all that glass tempered or safety glass? Or is this, because you're having a different type of clientele now going to use this building, they're going to be there for several hours a day, rather than just customers coming in previously for a couple minutes. So I just want to make sure that that glass has all the requisite safety features. This may be a code issue for Mr. Di Lorenzo, but will that glass be
So to answer
appropriate for
your
such
question,
as this?
I don't know, I didn't see if it was tempered, but the glass is not based on occupancy, it's based on its size.
Right.
Once it reaches a certain size, it's supposed to be tempered, for example. But that's something that we could look into.
Mr. Di Lorenzo wants to.
When they come in for permits, we would look at that.
Do facilities like this, when you're dealing with seniors or even children, for example, do glass windows like this have to have extra safety features in place?
Yeah, sometimes it depends, like you said, the size, so when they come in when we do a review, we review it that way and to make sure that they need it or not need it.
All right, thank you, thank you.
Any other questions by members of the board? Any questions by members of the public of the witness, based on testimony? Yes, Mr. Frantantoni, come on right up.
Yeah, I just have one question. This is rear access to the condominiums. Where is that?
That's this door right here.
That's the rear of the building.
Yes.
Where does that lead to?
I believe, I haven't been in the building, but I believe it's a corridor that runs to the front of the building.
Right, but there's no access to the condominium from the rear. That's a tunnel. You have to go to Washington Ave, then go to the front entrance.
No, I don't believe so. I have.
No,
it doesn't.
It's-
It's an entrance.
Right, so this is the whole building right here. So that door is back here underneath, and this is an open corridor.
They connect in the, somewhere
Right,
in
so
the
there, I
middle.
believe there's
From
stairs
the
or
back,
something.
yeah, in the front, they'll connect the stairs to go up from the back, and you walk into the condominiums, or you could come into the front and you just go up the stairs into the condominium.
From the rear, you
Yeah.
get to the condominium.
Yes,
Right.
we got access to. Thank you.
Any other questions by members of the public? Mr. Gassion, you may call your next witness.
Mr. Stewart?
Wait a minute.
With regard to this application, do you swear the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Again, state your name and spell your last name, please.
Charles Stewart, S-T-E-W-A-R-T.
Mr. Stewart, we saw you not too long ago. You're calling him as a planner,
As an engineer and planner.
engineer and planner. Okay.
Is he accepted, Mr. Chairman? He was
Oh, yes,
accepted
he
earlier
already
today.
testified earlier in another case, so we
Thank you.
already agreed that he can testify.
Mr. Stewart, did you prepare the engineering site plan for the proposed business?
Yes, I did.
And would you review the location of the property?
Certainly. I have the site plan mounted on the board. The plan, the original date, 10/29/18, revised 2/28/19. Property is approximately 60 feet north of William Street on the east side of Washington Avenue. Running behind the building is Greenwich Street, and there's obviously existing commercial / residential uses along this stretch of Washington Avenue. It's located in the BG zone. That's approximately the location of the property, and the lot area is 4,497 square feet, and it has 50 foot of frontage on Washington Avenue.
Would you review the parking for this proposed use?
Yes, on Greenwich Street, behind the building, to the north of the property, there's an existing structure located immediately behind the building. Just to the north of that, on the other side of Greenwich Street, is an existing parking lot, which has approximately 35 spaces located within that.
And how many of those spaces are allocated to this applicant?
14 spots are allocated to our client.
And do you happen to know the size of those spaces?
I didn't physically measure the spaces, but they're typical 9 by 18 spaces.
And the minivan, would the minivan be able to fit in one of those spaces?
Absolutely, yes.
And the discussion you heard had to do with the drop-off and pickup. The testimony was that there is probably no one parked outside on Washington Avenue early in the morning when clients arrive at this location. How will they be taken from this location if there are cars parked in the front of this location?
Okay, if there are cars parked in the front of the building, I have the actual spot shown on the plan. I have the meters shown. As you get to the intersection, there's about a 25-foot section, unmetered area before you get to William Street, that the van could pull in and load and unload people that would be coming to the facility.
And these are not handicapped people, they're people that can take the step up and get on the bus, is that correct?
That's my understanding, yes.
And the rear, if circumstances required it, could a pickup be made at the rear of people leaving the facility to go home?
Without a doubt, you could easily pull over on Greenwich Street. The people could come out of the first floor, go down the stairs, and load into the vans.
And would you review the zoning violations and why a variance is required?
Yes, we have a use variance is required due to the fact that this particular use is not permitted in the DG zone. So that's one of the variances. Also, we have other pre-existing non-conforming conditions, namely lot area, 10,000 is required. This lot is 4,497 square feet. Lot width, 100 feet is required. This lot's 50 feet wide. Lot depth, 100 feet is required. This lot's 90.38. And rear yard of 15 feet required. We have 14.6. Those are all pre-existing non-conforming conditions. So the main variance would be the use variance.
Now the use variance. Is this use of an inherently beneficial nature?
This use, my research has shown that this is an inherently beneficial use.
And can you review any other aspects of it, and in particular the negative criteria?
Yes, the negative criteria, first of all, the inherently beneficial use is a use which is universally considered of value to the community. So that would be the reason that it would be considered inherently beneficial. Therefore, that reason alone satisfies the positive criteria or special reasons to allow the board to approve this use variance. As far as the negative criteria goes, the use certainly is not substantially detrimental to the public good. I believe it's a benefit in the area. I think it'll be a nice use for this particular.
Does it serve a need of the community that seems to be a growing need with the aging population?
Yes, it does. It seems to be becoming more popular that senior daycare is a use that seems to be popping up all over the place. I've had a couple applications for this particular type situation. And then the use shall not substantially impair the intent and purpose of the zone plan and the zoning ordinance. And I do not believe that this use does impair the intent or purpose of the zone plan and zoning ordinance.
Is there more than adequate parking on the property in that rear lot?
Yes, we have 14 spots. There's 8 staff, and I've been told that not all the staff drive. And if there's 3 vans, with the 14 spots that they have allocated for this particular use is certainly adequate.
Is it probably not correct that there's more than the required number of spaces?
Without a doubt.
And the 3 vans plus the number of employees could all be parked in those 14 spaces without any difficulty?
Yes.
I have no further questions to this witness.
Mr. Valano?
I don't know where to start. So you refer to inherently beneficial. When you refer to that, you mean the service is inherently beneficial,
Yes.
not technically the location, correct?
The actual service that they're
The
providing.
use.
Yes.
But it
Is
doesn't say,
is considered
if
to
you
be
have it
of
on-
value to the community.
it doesn't mean, if it's not in an appropriate place or building or location, it
No,
doesn't.
definitely not. That's the question for you to consider,
Right.
whether it is an appropriate location.
So and that's what I'm trying to work my way through. So how many steps from the back up to the first floor?
13,
13 steps.
yes.
That's not a lot for seniors. I just can't wrap my brain around how that's not an issue.
Well, I mean, if the people are functioning adults that are able to not have to be in a wheelchair, I would certainly think that
My
they could
mother's
walk
a
up and down a
functioning
flight of
adult.
stairs.
My mother's functioning adult. She's 96.
Okay?
I don't let her go up and down stairs.
Well, then maybe this facility wouldn't be appropriate for her then.
So is there an age requirement? Is there a physical requirement? I don't know.
I could put the
Yeah.
client back on.
I would have-
Definitely, he has a
Criteria.
restriction on who he can and cannot take.
Yeah.
But before I put him back on, we just ask a couple more questions, Mr. Stewart. Mr. Stewart, is there room in the front on Washington Avenue with no parking at the hour the patients are being delivered or clients are being delivered? Is that at all a problem?
No, it appears from the pictures and from the testimony of the client who's had experience in this area, that at that hour,
So,
there's plenty of open spots along Washington Avenue.
Now, with regard to the time when the clients will be leaving, between 1 and 2:30, I believe was stated, if these spaces are all taken on Washington Avenue, is there room to have the minivan pick the patients up, the clients up on Washington Avenue?
Yes, yes.
And could you explain where that location is?
Just south of the building, there's where the metered parking ends. There's about a 25-foot section of curb
and it's-
prior to getting to the return on William Street, that a van could pull over and discharge or load.
Right, so that's reserved for your clients.
That is, it's not specifically reserved for our clients, but it's an open area.
I'm up and down Washington Avenue at 7:30 in the morning to come to this building. I'm sure I can get tomorrow morning a couple of pictures of locations where there's nobody parked. It doesn't mean that, I'm gonna say more times than not, in my opinion, that there's people parked there. I'm not talking about this particular location, I don't know. But I'm saying, I find it hard to wrap my brain around that this spot is always gonna be available.
No, this is an
Let me
illegal
finish.
spot. This is an illegal, just so we understand. It is not a parking spot.
Right.
It's not a parking
So
spot.
why-
Did you just
so-
say it was an illegal spot?
It's an illegal spot, no question.
Means that you should not be dropping off and picking up?
If every business, they have trucks parked in the middle of the
Well, let's just say
street
it's-
for delivery.
let's just say
We're
it is
talking about
illegal. There's nothing says it's gonna be there, because other people might have the same mindset as you're alluding to put there. I'm just saying, I'm having a hard time wrapping my brain around that. That's
Okay.
all.
Can I just go a little
Yeah,
further with Mr.
please.
Stewart?
Please.
Mr. Stewart, will there be a canopy over the stairs, and can people egress from the rear to the rear street?
Yes.
And the client has indicated to you that there will only be mobile clients at this location, is that accurate?
That's accurate.
Okay. Now, is there any question in your mind that in the morning, at the time the clients arrive, there would be no difficulty with finding a parking space in front of this facility?
Based on what I've heard and based on the pictures that I've seen,
Right. And that's
there
my point.
should be ample locations for the van to pull over and unload.
So the issue then should be at the 1, 2 o'clock time. And if there's a space in front that's available, the minivan could pull in and there would be no difficulty. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
And if there is no space available, is there room on the corner between where the corner ends and the first parking space, more than ample room for a van to park for a minute or 2 or 3 to load a couple of
There's
clients?
no room there. There's a parking meter right in front of that store on the corner. So, and that's not an open space. A parking meter, somebody could be parking there. I know that area.
No question it's not an open space, but there's an area about, I'll let Mr. Stewart.
About 25 feet from the last parking stall to the corner.
And you look at, in front of that store, look at the picture too. Shows a meter right in front of Patuzzo furniture store. That's on the corner there.
Thank you.
There you go. There you go, John. How was it done?
While Mr. Grusso is looking, I'd like to recall my client, based on Mr. Villano's question about who will be
Right
his
here,
clients.
there's a meter right on that corner. And then you got a double meter after that for 2 cars.
There's I was just there before I came here to double check. There's an approximately 25-foot space of unmetered parking that would be suitable to pull over and unload and load.
But if there's
Clients.
unmetered parking, does that mean it's prohibited parking? Or can anybody park there?
No, it's
Is there a
not,
sign that says no parking anytime?
I did not see a sign that says no parking.
Okay.
I mean, I don't think, you're not allowed to park
I
there.
want you to bring your client up because some other questions have come up on all this.
Fine.
And that is, and he can come up, tell him to come up.
Mario,
You know, we'll get this all straightened out real fast. My question is, based upon, now first, how old are these people or what age, what age range are we talking about?
We don't have an age range. We do have a starting, we will not take no one under 18 years old, or 21, let's say. But they could go as old as long as they could, walk and be ambulatory. That's our main goal, is that as long as they could get up and down on their own and do their own things, those are the clients that we would choose to have in our facility.
Now, a state license, does it require you to have an area in front of the building that there could be no parking anytime in case an emergency comes up and the ambulance has to be called?
Actually, no, not to my knowledge. There's no requirement of that.
if there was such a requirement, he wouldn't get the license and there'd be no issue.
The existing one doesn't have that.
Existing one.
The existing daycare center down Washington Ave.
All right, so at
Does
1
not
o'clock in the
have a
afternoon,
designated spot.
at 1 o'clock in the afternoon, they are blocking that right lane with whether they're picking up or dropping off the guests or clients, as you want to refer to them, causing traffic on.
No, Ms. Lopez, there's a spot, we're not parking in the street.
Right now, I'm saying for the location he's mentioned.
Oh, the other location, yeah.
Yes. they park there, or they place their vans that they use to transport, I guess, their clients and guests in the right lane on the northbound side of Washington Avenue, and they block that lane, causing a lot of traffic for the Taco Bell and CVS entrance and exit across the street. That occurs throughout the day, every day on that section.
There is no back door to that building.
Right.
There's a sign over here that says no parking here at the corner. There's not room for a car there. Then there's a parking meter with a car there. So you can't park on the corner.
Would you just review how you will get your clients and what requirements they will have to get those clients and what restrictions you will have, if any, licensing from the state of New Jersey?
Well, like I said, I don't have the licensing for having wheelchair clients into the facility because I have to go through all that process. Obviously, Rhonda Morrison is qualified for those things. I'm not as the owner of the place. But, so I will have to work with
So is she
them.
gonna testify tonight?
That would be.
We can call her up, sure.
You know, well, I need somebody who's qualified to
Well,
answer questions, but.
That would be the question. We're not qualified for it because we don't have the license for it.
They're not looking for the license for handicapped people. They are not prepared to handle handicapped people.
Yeah.
I will call Rhonda Morrison. Let me call her. Rhonda?
Ma'am, could you raise your right hand, please? With regard to this application, you state that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth.
Yes,
Could you state your name and spell your last name, please?
Rhonda Morrison, Morrison.
Is it R-H-O-N-D-A?
Ronda.
R-O-N-D-A. Thank you.
Rhonda, are you going to be an employee of this operation that we're discussing on Washington Avenue, should this application be approved?
Yes, I am.
And can you briefly give the board the benefit of your experience with senior daycare?
Well, I'm licensed residential healthcare for 19 years. I worked in the same facility with seniors that range from the age of 65 to 97. A lot of experience. And with the daycare, it's basically similar to residential healthcare. You're providing a service to them. You're going to occupy their day. You're going to give them activities, keep them up on current events, take them on day trips, make them feel useful and a part of the community again. That's what we're looking to do.
Would you review who your clients would be with regard to their physical capability?
They would all be ambulatory care, which means that they would have to be able to go up a certain amount of stairs. Canes are okay, walkers, but when they're inside. But I have a 97-year-old that I knew that could go up 15 steps every day to a bedroom. So, I mean, everyone is different.
And will you restrict your clients to ambulatory clients?
Yes, I will.
And will the licensing not allow you to have disabled clients?
Yes.
And that's the licensing you're seeking, that which does not go as far as having disabled clients?
Yes.
As per her testimony, canes, walkers are ambulatory.
Once they're inside.
Once they're inside.
Okay, how do they get inside? Fly?
Well, actually, they walk. I mean, like I said, I've had clients that...
I get it.
Yeah.
I'm not picking on anybody.
Oh, no.
I'm the same way,
Right.
But my point is, a walker and a cane, 13 steps is a concern. That's my opinion. I'm not an expert like you are.
Okay.
So I'm just giving it an unprofessional opinion. That's it. So walkers are allowed and canes are allowed.
My point is, how do you go up steps with a walker?
I
No.
know.
They're ambulatory, which means that they need them for minimal assistance. Like if they're
So
out
you carry 'em up
shopping,
the stairs.
they would take that. Well, no, some people can walk many distances. Some
See, my concern,
Need assistance.
and I see where Mr. Valano's coming from. My concern is, let's say these people came in from the back, and one of them lost their balance and fell backwards.
Okay.
You get killed.
Well, these are, the clients that we're taking are going to need minimal assistance. It's not going to be something where someone's gonna have to be going up behind them or holding on to them. It would be minimal assistance.
Look, unless I'm missing something. I hear what you're saying, and I
Okay.
believe you. But you yourself said that some might have a cane or a walker.
Right,
That's what I'm focusing on.
okay.
I mean,
Believe me, like
I
I
hear your
said,
point. Like I said,
I've had seniors that use them minimally. It's
Right.
not something that they use continuously.
I get it. My mother doesn't use the walker. I have it, to your point, I have the cane and the walker in the house. She's not allowed to go up and downstairs
Okay.
because she's 96 and, to your
Breaks
point,
the hip,
not
fall over.
stable. And my point is, I'm focusing on not the owners, but the facility. That's all I'm focusing on. That's it. So, I'm not saying you're not capable or you're not capable. I'm not arguing that. You have your licenses. I'm not qualified to make that judgment. What I am making opinions about is the facility. That's it. That's all I'm saying.
I have a question for you. The clients using your facility, how is this being paid? Are these Medicaid, Medicare, or?
Yes.
Yes to everything, or?
Yes, well,
Medicaid?
Medicare actually does not pay for daycares.
Right.
It would have to be Medicaid,
Medicaid.
yes.
So this is, your revenue is coming from the government, from either the federal government or the state.
Yes.
And you're saying that only mobile clients are going to be allowed to use this. Are you kind of dealing with a discriminatory situation where you're getting assistance, you're getting your income from the government, but you're telling a certain group of seniors who may have ambulatory problems, you can't use our facility? Is there a?
We have no wheelchair accessibility.
Yeah. But the government allows you to
Yes.
discriminate against people
It's
who
not
are-
discrimination. If you have no accessibility, how would you be able to get them into your facility?
Well, ideally, your facility would have the ability to accommodate people who are dealing with ambulatory issues that are confined to wheelchairs or have other types of prosthetic devices needed to move about. But you're saying that you're only really accepting seniors who are in good enough physical shape so that they don't need any other assistance beyond canes or walkers. And I'm just
Which
trying
would
to-
be limited.
I just find
Not
it
all
hard-
seniors.
hard to believe. I have to defer to your expertise, but that the government would allow a certain group of seniors, this is an adult daycare facility, but you're saying that a certain group of seniors cannot use our facility, even though we're being funded by the government.
Their licensing is not going to allow them to take that kind of...
Exactly.
I have difficulty understanding that licenses would be granted in this day and age that would deny a certain class of people from using a facility.
I don't think they're denying, they're not capable, they don't have a facility that's capable of taking a disabled person. And therefore, the government's going to allow, if they don't allow them, then they can't open.
It's just my naivete. I just thought that medical facilities had to be accessible by anyone wishing to use them.
That's not necessarily
Maybe a
true.
public accommodation, but not a private facility.
Yeah, I worked for a facility, like I said, a residential healthcare. We had no wheelchair accessibility. It was government funded, and we weren't allowed to take anybody in a wheelchair. There was no wheelchair accessibility
And
for
if
them
you've
to
ever been
live
in
in.
the hospital, they won't let you out of the hospital unless you go out in a wheelchair.
I believe what she's saying.
How many full-time employees will you have?
Eight.
They're full-time.
There's going to be 8.
How many part-time?
No part-time
That means,
at this point.
that means they take 8 of the 14 parking places, right?
No, there's only 3 of us that drive.
Oh,
But
the other one take mass transit.
But even if everybody drove and you had 5 vans, you still have only 13 out of 14 being used. Spaces.
Parking's not the issue.
Parking's not the issue here. definitely parking's not the issue. Access may be an issue, but parking is not. You had a question?
No.
I thought you were gonna ask a question.
In your experience, when someone with a walker needs to go down 13 stairs?
13
to the rear,
steps.
Yes.
does one of the employees?
Yes, they would
I'm
assist them
assuming they
down.
carry the walker and the
Oh,
person.
yes, and
Okay.
you would assist the client down the
No, she
stairs.
said no. Originally he said no, that nobody would be behind them.
Oh,
actually,
I'm
going down the
sorry,
steps,
then
that
I
would be
misunderstood the question.
All right, so now with a cane or especially with a walker, I mean, you can't get downstairs with a walker. So someone will hold on to it and help the person down.
Yes,
With a cane, it depends on the sort of the level of mobility, I assume?
we would walk them up regardless.
You would?
Yes.
So there would be, because
There
I
has
was
to
getting
be
the impression
assistance.
they'd be on their own, but you're saying that there would be help from the employees?
The employees, yes.
Just so we understand, the goal is not to have anybody use the rear. The goal is to use the front. The rear
Coming
is
and going.
for coming and going.
That's what my.
And
I
again,
can see if the employees use the rear, but
well,
I don't think.
Mr. Stewart pointed out, there's a 25-foot space, not a legal space, but an open space. And that's the way businesses operate on main thoroughfares. I have a daycare, there's like 3 in them by me.
Oh, yeah,
There's not one space there for anybody.
You're
A
right.
daycare, not one space. We're talking about having an area where we can pick up the customers. I mean, that's what happens in a developed community like this. 3 in a row, right by me.
Let me ask another question which may resolve this problem. When someone is coming in on the van, okay, clients, how many people escort them into the building?
As many as needed. It could be every employee, hands-on.
So there is access, so if they have to double park and they have to get out and walk
We
between
can
parked
get them in
cars,
very
there will
quickly.
be people there, so there's no danger.
Yes.
Is that required by the state for you to do that?
That's just being a kind person.
With all of the wonderful medical technology available these days, would it be possible to put some sort of lift or a chair in the back so that if someone needs a little bit more assistance getting up or down those stairs, that, just as you see advertised in
Mike,
TVs?
that has to come through us, you guys can't make that. If it doesn't requirement, doesn't need it, they can't do it.
You can't impose it, it's like you can't put sprinklers in something, it's up to them.
Yeah, that's why the code's there, it dictates the code, you can't,
Even though the code doesn't build it like that.
So you would have to make the decision if...
well, if it meets it or not, we would do, when it comes in for building permits, we see if it needs it or not. He can put-
Okay.
you think that enforce-
Go ahead, Paul. You have a question? No, wait. Did you have a question?
Yes, I actually want to get back to what my main concern was, which was the dropping off of and picking up the guests or clients, as you wish to refer to them, whether it be in the front of the building or in the back of the building. In the back of the building, is that not a one-way street?
That is one.
It is correct.
If the van is there and they are offloading or loading residents, clients, or guests, will other vehicles be able to get around that van in the back on that one-way street?
Yes.
There's plenty of room for them to get to.
I believe so. Although it needs to be repaved, there's potholes all over the place. Big potholes.
Yeah, the width is approximately 24 feet.
Right, and
So
you gotta remember, they'll be getting off on the side where the building is, and cars will be going around to the left, so it wouldn't endanger anybody getting off the van.
But again, the goal is not to drop patients off in the rear.
I
And
understand.
probably not to pick patients up in the rear. That's only in a rare circumstance. The goal is to drop them off at the front door before cars are parked there because they're coming between 7 and 8 o'clock in the morning, and to be picked up in the same location if there's no space, then to use that 25 feet at the corner. Not blocking any traffic, pull into that spot.
If the spot is available.
Well, it's likely to be available, it's not a parking spot.
It is not a parking spot. Chuck, would you just explain that again?
And it's just an open area to the corner that's not in a metered parking area.
And just so
In
that
that
we
corner?
clear,
Yeah,
And not 25 feet though.
I measured it before I came here.
You sure?
just so that we're
I
clear,
am.
my concern here comes
All right.
in with not so much the blocking of the traffic, but because they are of age, the safety of the vehicle being double parked and the client's guest getting off that vehicle to either enter or exit your facility is where my concern lies.
But it's not, they don't plan on
It's
double
not double
parking.
park.
I understand that, but if that spot, for whatever reason, let's say is a delivery truck parked there, he's making a delivery. The spot is not available when they come to either pick up or drop off. We're talking about folks who may be with canes, who may be with walkers, getting off these vehicles that are double parked on an actual lane on that avenue, risking safety of something happening to them by the traffic that's coming through. That is where my concern lies in that area. If this place had an area where they can pick up and drop off the guests or the clients, then the service I have no concern with. The service that you folks are looking to provide is definitely something that the community can use and can benefit from, for sure. We appreciate our seniors in this town very much. This service, they can definitely use, and we definitely welcome it. My concern for them is that pickup and drop-off area that we're suggesting is not something that is a permanent area that you can use at any time that you need to, whether to pick up or to drop off. If there is a delivery vehicle on that corner or something like that blocking it, you have to drop off, I would actually prefer that it's done in the back where a vehicle can get around your car and they can get in since they are mobile. This is where my concern is coming from, for our residents, especially our elderly residents, getting off in an area that is not designated to be dropping off and picking up passengers.
The only thing I can suggest is that it's 11 o'clock. We've completed our case except for the issue of the drop-off and pickup. Adjourn the case till the next regular scheduled meeting of the board, and we'll see if we can do anything else that would satisfy the board with regard to the safety of the drop-off and pickup of the potential clients.
Before we go off on that, I'm gonna ask the board if they think we need a traffic expert's report.
No, I don't need one.
You don't need one?
No, what I need is, what it just said, give me an alternative. I have ideas, but I'm not an expert, and
Would you need to go to the county, since it's a county road, correct?
State
road. Frank, would they need to go to the, assuming the county and or the state, to get whatever you need?
I think they're both county and state.
There are a couple of other thoughts that I have, and I have to discuss them with my client.
so I think we should, I like the adjourn it.
Yeah.
All right.
Let him present what
I have no
he
problem with
present.
that.
Before we
Give him
adjourn,
a fair
before we
shake.
adjourn, before we adjourn, I don't want to keep belaboring your point about the lift, and I understand Mr. Di Lorenzo saying that this would become a code issue, but in the absence of him saying yes, the chairlift must be installed, would the applicant voluntarily agree?
I hear what you're saying, I think.
That's one of the things that will be considered, that's why I'm asking for an
They're gonna
adjournment.
go back and see. You can't enforce it. If they wanna do it on their own,
That's
Don't
what
know if
I mean,
the landlord would allow it, there's a lot of
That would
issues.
help my cause if I knew there was a safe
Like Frank
means of
said,
egress in the back via
they have to suggest it, and then Frank asked them about it.
I have no idea what the cost is, I have no idea if the landlord will allow it, so I need to adjourn the case. Mr. Chairman, can we have an adjournment to the next regularly scheduled meeting?
Actually, I'll tell you what we'll do, depending upon how you wanna handle it, since they're both your cases, we can either start, and we finish this, or start the other one first, whichever you wanna do. Because they're both your cases, that's.
Well, this will be quick. I'd rather finish this. We'll have either have an answer
So
that
this will be
satisfies
the
the
first
board or
case
not.
on the agenda, and the church will be the second case on the agenda, for June 6, 2019. Anybody in the audience who's interested in this case, this is being adjourned to June 6, 2019. There'll be no further notices either in the mail or in the newspaper.
As I read the board, the issue is the drop-off and pickup, and there's no other issues with regard to
The worry is the safety of it all.
I understand. Okay.
Do we need an extension, time at all?
I waived the time constraint. I don't think you need it, but I waived it.
I think this is the first time it's on the agenda.
Well, it's from when it's completed out.
Remember your little friend that sent the notices? Oh, that's another thing. By the way, if you're going to send the notices on the church, please try and send them as early as possible.
And for the record, did you share my letter with the board members that we did not mistakenly notice in Montclair? Okay. The comment was made that we had mistakenly noticed in the wrong town.
Matter of Quinton St, 90 Franklin Street, application.
Applications, yes, we're doing the applications for memorialization.
Application TV 2018-13, 90 Franklin Street. Bennett? Yes. Caruso?
Yes.
Lopez? Sheldon?
Yes.
Milano? Del Garcia?
Yes.
Matter of Old City Restoration, Inc., 1721 Brook Street. Application CB 2018-11. Caruso?
Yes.
Lopez? Sheldon? Milano? Del Garcia?
Yes.
Close the meeting?
Don't you have a third one? We did that. That was, what's his name? Rob. Don't you have a third?
There was,
Here? Can you give it back to you and Willie? He's gonna be here in like 5 hours.
If you need the next one, I got an extra copy.
Getting overtime.
We'll have to sign it. Which one is missing? We got Brook Street, we got 90 Franklin. Oh, the main one.
Yeah, frankly, sound
Everybody is
Sound
developed. On Quinton,
So we're gonna have to sign it. Somebody has. Does anybody have sound development for signature? Hello? No? All right, we're gonna have to sign it again. Don't run away. Hold on.
Never built one.
All right, here. Bennett, you can sign this. Lopez, we don't have to. Shelton. Here. Bennett and Shelton, sign that. Bennett and Shelton, sign that. Please, in your own spots. Have you voted? Let me have this back. Okay. Giordano was not here, you're right.
He sent me an email, I read them. Yeah, 2 engineers. He sent me an iPad.
Actually, give it to Willie first, because otherwise Caruso will sign the wrong spot.
Is that sound development?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, because they keep,
I want to get it out of the way.
they want to bury
It
it.
disappeared, we had it up here, it disappeared. So I had a copy, so I said, let me give him the copy.
Yeah,
Good, we're all done.
What we got?
If I,
what's the matter?
if I,
your daycare center?
I'm gonna sign.
He's gonna go to a daycare.
Gotta have Jack there, though.
Jack Daniels.
Of a bar, quiet room.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about that. What the heck is a quiet room? What are they, bad boys, and they put them in a room?
And I'm hungry, so I have to go home and eat something. No, I'm gonna go home so I can grab something to go.
This place has a room.
I didn't want to come across it.
That's all right, because anyway, nothing was changed on this.
Not that long.
Nothing was changed on it.
That sounds.
Okay.
I know we're not done yet, don't worry. I was just doing what you guys were doing, just. Okay, matter of Sound Development LLC, 548, 568 Franklin Avenue, application ZB 2018-04. Bennett?
Yes.
Caruso?
Yeah.
Lozo?
Yes.
Sheldon?
Yes.
Milano?
Yes.
Del Garcia?
Yes. Motion to adjourn.